Hello, everyone. We're here. We're here again, and it's a special. Crikey! Can you believe this? We have done 100 episodes. Crikey, 100 episodes, and it's all been with him, Delboy, and he's here again. And I'm sorry, a bit late. It's my fault. I got the link wrong, which is typical of me with my computer. You know how technical I am. Not, but anyhow, it's here. We're here, and we're going to go through it, and it's exciting for us, and hopefully you might enjoy it as well. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, we can get back into our normal any questions, but it's a Doctor Who special, and we're going to talk about Doctor Who, the classic Doctor Who, which classic Doctor Who is considered from 1963 to 1989. So that's the first 7 Doctors. So that's what we're going to talk about because that's what we've got a passion for. It's what we grew up with. What I'm going to start off with and say to Delboy is, tell me your history with Doctor Who. What got you into it? When did you get into it? And just talk about, your passion for it, how it's developed over years.
Wow. That's an intriguing question, really. But most people will sort of know, because I've talked about it before, that one of my earliest memories, if I was to think back to one of my earliest memories, and I think of television in particular, I saw this elderly old man suddenly turn into a younger man with a similar sort of nose and curly hair, and it was the end story of Planet of the Spiders, with John Pertwee turning into Tom Baker, and I suppose that it had an effect on me because I always considered John Pertwee to be sort of like my granddad type thing. He was sort of like the person that you went, oh, I like being around my granddad. He tells such interesting stories. Do you know what I mean? And Planet of the Spiders was interesting anyway because it had spiders in it. And I knew that spiders girls don't like, and I've got a sister, so spiders were in it as well, and sort of like, I mean, at this particular point in time, I'm sort of like below 7 years old, so it's a very early, it's a very early age. In fact, I mean, I was actually 5, I think. 5, 6, 1970. Yeah, I was 5. Right. So the early Tom Baker stuff then is still a bit of a blur because I remember that vividly because there's a change in features, for the Doctor. And all through the 70s where everybody says, oh yeah, Tom Baker's the best Doctor, he was in it for 7 years. It's quite true. I was watching it, but as a child, I don't remember watching them originally the first time round. I've remembered them because I've seen them on video and I've seen them on DVD and I've listened to the audio and all of that sort of stuff. But if you were to honestly ask me, do I remember, I don't know, The Key to Time or something when it was first being broadcast, I'd have to turn around and say, do you know what? Probably not. I remember it because The Stones of Blood was actually being filmed in my same area. And I remember being on the set, with my friend and him nicking a piece of the piece of the masonry that was on the floor. He wanted it as a prop sort of like thing to take away with him. But do I remember it being broadcast? Probably not. And so we catch up at a time really towards the end of the era with Tom Baker. And that's where I sort of like fell in love with it. It had always been with me, but now I'm of an age that I understand it. You see what I mean? I think people can understand it quite quickly, but what I'm trying to say is I understood it more as something that I could enjoy the stories of and remember them. So really, Tom Baker's final season was where I started to go, I get that now. I get that story. I understand what they're talking about here. And also they'd changed the title sequence that year, and it made it more, this suddenly all glossy type Starfield and all of this sort of stuff. And it was all over Blue Peter on how Sid Sutton did that and all of that sort of stuff. And what you have to remember as well, even as a child, I'd have recognized that Tom Baker had that other title sequence for a good 6 years. So it would have probably been getting stale in my head, because nobody knows what the future of Doctor Who's going to be, do they? You don't know what the title sequences are going to change ahead of time, do you? So I was looking at this and going, wow, this Starfield looks amazing. Oh, look, there's Tom Baker's head. Oh, all of this sort of stuff. And they've changed the incidental music, and it was all synthesizers. Oh, you know what I mean? And I was into my synthesizers, I can tell you. It was all changed for me. I was going up to secondary school. I was listening to music like Adam and the Ants, Human League, all of this sort of stuff. So this was a sort of like a really exciting time. So that's how I got into Doctor Who. That's what I remember of Doctor Who, and from there on, it's been a passion, because when it was off air, I was going, how can I watch anything? We'd just got a video recorder. I found the BBC hadn't brought out many videos yet on VHS. There were sort of like secret sort of like adverts in Doctor Who magazine telling you where you get audio recordings, from people that, lived in sort of like Bournemouth, things like this. And I'd just passed my driving test, and I was able to drive down there and pick up audio versions of Patrick Troughton stories, like the, that you couldn't get on VHS. And it just went on and on and on, so I was listening to it on audio, I was reading books, I was watching what I could on BBC. There were repeats. In this era, we were getting to things like the 20th anniversary, so that wasn't too far away from when I was watching Tom Baker and turn into Peter Davison. So we're only 2 years into his tenure, and you had 5 Doctors. And and people were around me were saying, oh yeah, they did a 3 Doctors one. I'm going, and then I had to try and find the 3 Doctors and all of this sort of stuff, and it just went on and on and on, spending money, with people that, either like-minded or you could communicate with magazine-wise, because there's no internet.
No,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Everything was you had to find it in libraries or go to comic books.
Yeah.
And by the way, comic book stores weren't a thing really much until the mid-80s. So it really was difficult to find like-minded people as well. Do you know what I mean? When you were going up to secondary school, some people would probably think that Doctor Who was a bit nerdy. That word nerdy. It's like, oh no, I'm going to watch the Sweeney. Oh yeah, I'm watching Doctor Who. You're still watching that childish child program. That sort of thing would be mentioned in the playground if you talk to certain people. That's because they were nasty. They were people that wanted to belittle you or make you look small. So if you like science fiction, then generally people would sort of like diminish your enjoyment in something. But they never took my enjoyment away from that program. I don't care. Buck Rogers could be on, Star Wars could be the best film in existence, but you wouldn't take away Doctor Who from me. You know what I mean? It was just something that I sort of grabbed hold of.
Yeah.
And in fact, the girl that I wanted to go out with, that I was in a computer club with, loved Doctor Who. So I sort of loved her even more because she liked Doctor Who as a girl. I thought, bloody hell, even my sister liked Doctor Who. And I found a girl that likes Doctor Who. Jesus, will you marry me? Jesus, it was sort of like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know quite what else more to add, other than I'll let you say how you started. Then come on, then. Because you go back to the early broadcast. In fact, you probably could have been the first person that thought of the idea, for all I know.
Right. I suppose my starting point for Doctor Who is 1965. Right, 1965. On my 5th birthday, I got a black Dalek, and I was so excited. I'd started to watch Doctor Who in that year. So I would have been 4, wouldn't I? I would have been 4 years old when I started watching it, and I was just mad about it. The Daleks, and I remember going, and we'd be I'd be in my sort of very first year at infant school, and all those kids, we're all going around playground going, I am Ed. We were just mad. Kids were just mad about the Daleks. I don't think people quite understand as much how big the Dalek phenomena was. It was massive. And kids like me just loved it. There was something about the Daleks that just caught something. And of course, it saved Doctor Who, because I think without the Daleks, we wouldn't have had a renewal of the series. The ratings were not, I don't think, good enough. They would have been BBC. It would have been just another footnote in history. But the Daleks were so important. They changed everything. And over years, my passion has just grown. I think, do you know what? One of the interesting things I remember was in 1972, we rented our first colour TV, and seeing John Pertwee in colour, it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, obviously I loved the black and white stuff and had a lot of nostalgia for that, but it was like seeing something totally new and fantastic in colour. Even though I bet if nowadays, if you looked at the colour quality, what we've got, then the colour TVs weren't brilliant. They weren't brilliant, but it was still there. It was still in colour, and we rented it, and and you'd upgrade over years.
Oh, was it multi-broadcast or Granada or what?
It was a company called DER.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I just thought it might have been. Yeah. I thought it might have been Granada or something like that.
Granada. Yeah, I think we had a choice. I don't know. We ended up. My dad went there because I kept pestering my dad, saying, "Come on, we've got to have a colour TV. You'll love it," And eventually he gave in. And my mum, of course, oh yeah, I like it. We're gonna watch Coronation Street in colour. So I thought, oh great, yeah, wonderful. But there we are. So I think that was a big moment really for me in Doctor Who, and it just continued. It always stayed with you. When I went to university in 78, it would be. So we're in Tom Baker era. Every Saturday, we always went to watch Doctor Who when it was on. And we just carried on that fascination. It has all the way through every era of classic Doctor Who. I was there watching it. Even, I'm saying it, we might get into it a little bit, but Colin Baker era, even in that, I was still watching it, though I was not liking it. And that's something we'll talk about, Colin Baker, many reasons why what happened with him. But it was a passion that has always remained with me. And when you were on about episodes, I remember going into Forbidden Planet, and you'd get these magazines where they'd do a breakdown of every episode. So you could see these episodes that you would never, ever, see on the TV.
Well, wasn't Doctor Who Weekly 1979 or something like that?
Yeah, yes, yeah. But there were these fans who kind of wanted to break, really specialized. They would be looking for, the VHS tapes obviously made a big difference. I mean, I remember the very first bought VHS tapes I bought were the film The Fog and Revenge of the Cybermen. And they, started my VHS journey. But Doctor Who, you should have seen how many times I played Revenge of the Cyborn, and it was an omnibus episode.
Yeah, they merged them together, didn't they?
Just
Yeah.
stick them all together. But God, I was absolutely. God, I've got Doctor Who. It was like you could watch Doctor Who on VHS, and now, that's the only nostalgia I've got for VHS, because I don't like VHS much. But then at the time, it was magic, absolute magic seeing Doctor Who. And it's just continued right into my life, and even when we had, when it ended in 89, I was still there loving Doctor Who, because the other thing is, once they started the VHS releases, well, it was great, wasn't it? You could get the stories, like you could discover I remember, I'm sure you remember this, when they released the Daleks, the very William Hartnell one.
God, yeah, the two-parter, yeah.
And they did it in episode forms, because before they'd not done it like that.
And I tell you what, my first copy of that was actually 2 individual boxes. They weren't actually one box with 2 tapes inside it.
That's right. Yes.
2 individual cases.
Yeah. Oh, do you know? I was so excited when I watched it. Absolutely, it was just, and I thought, well, this is the best way to watch Doctor Who. The episode, the cliffhangers at the end. I mean, if I've got any criticism of modern Doctor Who, it's that they've lost that. They've lost the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
These episodes, and wasn't the cliffhanger really a major part of Doctor Who? Really, that ending, the music coming in, and each week you'd be thinking, oh God, how's he going to get out of that? How is the Doctor going to get out? And in Genesis of the Daleks, Sarah Jane falling off the rocket, the escape. What's going to happen? It was just amazing. Yeah, you were thinking, oh, I can't wait for next week's episode, and we had to wait a week.
Yeah, I know.
Crikey! And nowadays you don't get that. You don't get the cliffhangers like that. It's all there, and I think that's part of the charm of Doctor Who. It was definitely, and it kept you excited. I mean, obviously, the other thing I think that you have to say straight away is that when we were watching it, you got a lot of episodes. Doctor Who was a year project.
Yeah.
They were producing it like on a production line all year. And nowadays, I mean, I don't know how many episodes they do. They don't do hardly any episodes at all, relatively. And the decline, we might talk about this, about what happened to Doctor Who, but by the time you got to even Peter Davison, they were starting to change things in terms of numbers of episodes. They were being reduced all the time. Time slots. Peter Davison, for instance, he got moved to a different time slot, different day showing it. And some of these things at the time we might not have noticed, but they were the death knell of what would ultimately happen.
I've got a funny feeling that Tom Baker was quite successful in Doctor Who because it was on a Saturday.
That's right.
And it was in a 5:40 or something.
Yeah, after the final score, wasn't it? They didn't call it final score then, but you'd have the results, the football results, didn't you, and all that stuff. And
and it sort of moved away from that Saturday slot during Peter Davison's era because it was put against Coronation Street or Emmerdale or something like that.
That immediately, even if you was a kid and you only had one television in the house, it was going to be difficult to get.
Yeah, if you didn't have a video recorder or a portable in your bedroom, that was it.
Yeah, you had to try. That's what you had to have, is a portable TV. And so you missed the opportunity of seeing it in colour because we only had a black and white portable.
Yeah.
But it was once they started messing about with scheduling, it was all going to go wrong. And once Michael Grade got in charge,
Oh yeah.
then he was not a fan of the series, and he, as we know, controversially, was really his aim was to get rid of Doctor Who. He thought Doctor Who was past its sell-by date, and that's why we had all the hiatus.
Well, I think his exact words was, "It's an embarrassment."
Yeah, he said we can't compete with Star Wars, and it's embarrassing, and all that kind of stuff. He used all that, but the thing was, I don't think he fully understood the effect on Doctor Who fans and the press as well, because the press made quite a big thing of it. It became a big news story that Doctor Who had been put on a hiatus. Unfortunately, it happened for Colin Baker. And that tarnished his tenure as Doctor Who. The fact he only got 2 series or seasons or whatever you want to call it.
It's funny you mention that, because I think he was looking for an opportune moment. I think he would have had difficulty with cancelling the BBC drama department with someone like Peter Davison at the helm, because he was still a well-known actor that was doing other stuff. He was doing a very peculiar practice, and he was also doing Sink or Swim, and he was doing all sorts of stuff on telly. So his name was not just synonymous with Doctor Who, and he was doing other stuff. And of course, it was off the back of All Creatures Great and Small.
That's right. Yeah.
Colin Baker less so, because it'd been a long time since he'd done The Brothers.
That's right. Yeah.
So basically, it was a name like, well, he's just changed. The very first episode that we've done of him coming out with is not well received. You know, he's killing Perry and all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's a perfect opportunity while this person that hardly anybody can even remember, I think we'll start, you know, I think I'll start my process of trying to get this knackered. You know what I mean?
And the big mistake for Colin Baker was the trial of the Time Lord. I don't think that went down well at all. Fans already were not that pleased.
Some people will say it's an ironic name, won't they? But I just turn around and say that sounds like the death knell of it.
Yeah. And even though it did come back, it always, I think there was an inevitability about it, especially as, to be honest, the very first Sylvester McCoy stories were pretty not that good. But if anything, Michael Grade was probably rubbing his hands and saying, they're gonna, you know, people are not going to enjoy these. But Sylvester McCoy did improve the writing and the team behind it. And Ace, it's interesting that a companion in Doctor Who can have a big effect. Sarah Jane was a much loved companion, and she spanned, you know, from John Pertwee right through to Tom Baker.
Yeah, first couple of seasons of Tom Baker.
And she's a well-loved companion. And in terms of with Sylvester McCoy, Ace was extremely popular. Melanie before wasn't, considered one of the worst. But Ace kind of gave the program a big impetus. She was important.
I think she infused a bit of energy into something that other companions didn't do, because she was sort of like, give me a baseball bat so I can go around beating the shit out of these people. I don't think other companions sort of like did that. They were always scared to death or
Sylvester McCoy didn't know how to do the Doctor in that first series.
No.
He wasn't sure. And then Ace came along and it gave him something. It kind of gave, you know, and the writers suddenly behind it were getting very imaginative. They could see a lot of possibilities. And that's why a lot of people say that it's a shame that we didn't get another season, because the last one of Sylvester McCoy is such a big improvement. It's really good.
Oh yeah.
And another series would have been absolutely fantastic, and they were willing to do it. They were all ready to do it.
Oh yeah, they had the story. Some of the stories were sort of like
Yeah,
half written, weren't they?
and
They've been turned into big finished productions.
yeah,
if I remember
but
rightly.
the other thing is John Nathan Turner. He kind of knew that maybe it would be the end. So in Survival, they rewrote the end. So it was kind of if it finished, if he knew it didn't get renewed, they had kind of an ending. So you get the speech with Sylvester McCoy and Ace, and it's sort of like looking rounding it off. It could have ended there, and you think, oh yeah, well, it is an ending kind of to it. And he was right, of course. He was right. Even though I think for quite a few years he had an office there and was planning and still waiting to get Doctor Who back.
Yeah.
But in the end, I suppose you had to wait till 2005.
My personal opinion of John Nathan Turner was that I think he should have gone after Peter Davison, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Some people will probably say actually at the end of Colin Baker would have been humane, and then have Sylvester McCoy starting with a different figurehead for the show. But it's just all of his insistence of having question marks and all of this sort of stuff. It never sort of like washed with me. I know what he was trying to do. It's like, if we put a question mark on everything, then of course that will become our logo that we can put.
He was looking for that kind of stuff. It's like he made a conscious effort to try and get sort of television stars involved as guest stars, trying to up the, that was his aim. The profile would have been upped if you got somebody, coming in. Like Jean Marsh was a great example. She was a great star to have. Great actor.
Battlefield,
in Doctor Who in '60s as well.
Wow, with the very story that they've brought back, that they found in the episodes with. So.
Yeah.
So who knew?
I think Doctor Who it ended in '89, but I think it ended on a high, really, because things were starting to get back.
Although I didn't think his closing line was particularly memorable.
Yeah, I just think it was something. I remember watching it and thinking, "Oh, this is such a great," and I didn't know, of course. I thought it would be back, but I thought, "Oh, this is great. I want to see more of Ace and the Doctor," and then that was it. We didn't, and all fandom then started to have what they call the wilderness years, and we got like Big Finish, which became this place where they were doing sort of Doctor Who stories, and some of the actors started to get involved. The doctors, because it was probably quite well paid for them as well. It was a job.
I'll tell you what it is about. I'll tell you what it is about John Nathan Turner. Was I never even know what he looked like really, apart from a few odd pictures in Doctor Who magazine. But he appeared on Swap Shop one day, and as soon as I heard his voice and he was talking about Doctor Who, I just thought, are you a fan? I know he is, and I know he's well known as being the person that kept Doctor Who going as long as it did during the 80s. But from my point of view, where I'd been watching it, for quite some time by this point, I was just going, you don't appear to be a Whovian, if you see what I mean. I was so into it that I thought there's got to be a better person than you.
His vision was very different.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that he kept that going. He kept the fire going, and without him, it would have ended a lot earlier than it did. But that's not the point. It's the point for me is if Trial of because I remember going through all that period with the music, Save the Doctor, and all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
If they'd have turned around and said at that particular point, John, give this up, and they brought somebody else in, somebody from the BBC drama department that could run with a different idea, we wouldn't have had stupid things like the Licorice Allsort Man and all of that sort of stuff, right? You see what I mean? Because that the trouble with a Doctor is this is the difficult thing as well, is that and this is purely from my perspective, is they don't really tell each Doctor, what do you want from me to be in this? They usually say, well, bring your own personality and do this, do that, the other. So when Sylvester McCoy came in, I remember him turning around and saying he brought the spoons out because he remembers that Patrick Troughton brought a musical instrument in. When Peter Davison was doing it, he brought out the little glasses, the half glasses from the William Hartnell, to show that an old man, but it's a young body, but with an old man inside it. So there's a reason. The spoons is sort of like, well, it's to show that, you know, Patrick Troughton had a musical instrument. The spoons are a musical instrument. I'll bring that in, even though I'd seen Sylvester McCoy play the spoons on other children TV programs. I think he did it on Tiswas. Right. He showed the spoons on Tiswas because he was a comedian, by the way, on Tiswas. Not a lot of people know that because they remember his BBC days and not too much of this ITV stuff. But all I was getting at is if there had been a new start at that point, maybe it would have lasted longer than 3 years. I don't know. I can't say. I'm just thinking back and going, do you know what? That would have been a humane cut-off point, is what I'm trying to get at. Even if it's the wrong cut-off point, it would have been the humane one. Did you? I mean, when you're talking about the end of Tom Baker, you know this, right? The executive producer in the last series of Doctor Who, Barry Letts.
That's right.
The executive producer. He'd left Doctor Who 10 years ago.
Yes.
So they brought him back, and Jonathan Turner was in his first year as the figurehead. In that's why it's, in fact, Tom Baker said, I don't like you, that's why I'm off. Right? He'd been having many arguments, and he was getting ratty because he basically said, I know more about being the Doctor than these writers ever do, and all of this.
That's right,
And what I'm trying to get at was Barry Letts was there to guide the ship as well, a little bit. And that probably shows you something in regards to Jonathan Turner needed something to hone him in a little bit. And you don't have anybody honing you in if you're the showrunner.
No.
And Barry Letts wasn't the showrunner, but he was there going, oh, maybe, John, you want to hold back a little bit on that, because Jonathan Turner was just a production manager, wasn't he? He was a floor manager.
Yes,
wasn't he? Before on Doctor Who, before he actually became the showrunner. So I'm just thinking to myself, do you know what? If Barry Letts had probably come back to be the person that filtered him a little bit, maybe that would have been a way that Doctor Who could have lasted a bit. Because it'd have been great if Barry Letts. I think some of the most quintessential years of Doctor Who history are Barry Letts.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I can't fault Barry Letts, really. I think some of the most brilliant years have been with him in it.
Yeah,
as some sort
of
I
agree. Yeah.
So,
I think if you add another sort of almost conspiracy element to it, Michael Grade still wanted to cancel it. And he kind of let it all happen. He knew he would cancel it. And though it appeared that everything was okay, I'm sure in his mind he had he knew he was going to cancel it. And that's what happened. And it just such a shame that it did, but that's how it is. I think I think perhaps we should talk about why I always say classic Doctor Who is better than the modern Doctor Who. Even though modern Doctor Who, I'm not going to totally knock it because it did what it had to do, and it had certain differences. Times were different, and there's all sorts of things like that. But why is classic Doctor Who for us always the best?
Yeah. I mean, remembering this, boys and girls, right? And I say boys and girls, even though it should be men and women, you know, and all that sort of stuff, because I doubt there's any 5 or 6 years olds in the audience. But I mentioned that tongue in cheek because I've got a funny feeling that the reason for me is probably age, in the fact that I grew up at a time where I was a toddler when I was watching it, and it was a continued piece of television that had never really gone away. And when Doctor Who came back, I was in my 40s. So I think people that watch the new Who and they were probably 6 or so, and they're now in 26 or something, they look back at it and probably think of it in the fondness that I do when I'm thinking about John Pertwee, when I remember my memory of this old guy turning into a new guy and it shocking me and going, oh, all of this sort of stuff. So I would probably say that it's more to do with the fact that from my point of view, it was a child thing that I never found childish as I grew older. But then when it came back after 10 or so years, you know, I mean, it's 14 years, isn't it? I think actually.
Yeah.
15 years. After 15 years, I'm now a person that is older, seen more science fiction than you probably would want to write down in your life, and reminiscing of the old days. And I'm looking at it and it's not done in the same way. So I'm sort of like slightly alienated, but I'm ahead of the game because anybody that was watching it for the first time didn't know who this guy was. And I was going, oh yeah, that's canon. That's Doctor Who. That is. And you got to remember that there were people in my house. My sister might, you know, even bring round her daughter or, you know, or her son. And if it was I was watching it in my room, they would come in and they would say, oh, I'm going to watch that when I get home. And then and I'd say, oh, you like Doctor Who? Then do you? And we'd have a conversation. At that particular point in time, they were buying Doctor Who trading cards that you could buy or stickers that you put in a sticker book, all of this sort of stuff. So they were in that playground mode that I could never be in because I'm at work, 40s, in my 40s, and that, talking about it like, oh yeah, but it's not like this, and they're going, you old fuddy duddy, all this sort of stuff, right? And I'm going, fuddy duddy. Oh yeah, I suppose I am a fuddy duddy because I remember it that many years ago. Shit, yeah. When you think of it like that, I think that's the problem.
I think another. I mean, people might not see it as a problem, but it's a fuddy-duddy like me. Is that I think with David Tennant, they kind of almost sexualized the Doctor Who with his relationship
there is that.
with Rose, and Doctor Who was never like that. He had all these wonderful companions, and he was never a sexualized figure. Whereas David Tennant comes along, which a lot of people love David Tennant. I'm no doubt about it. Yeah. But he's sexualized with his relationship with Rose. Some people will say in a modern era, that is all right. And that's how it should be. It reflects our modern way. But I always see the Doctor as not like that. He's this figure and he's just he doesn't get involved in relationships like that.
I mean,
Even
I
though,
mean, we're talking about classic Who really
yeah,
again, rather than the
classic Who.
and I have
It,
to think, I have to think about this for a minute, Ian, because
yeah,
I'm not quite sure if David Tennant sexualized it or whether the writing and Rose sexualized it, because
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that Rose was the person that got attracted to the Doctor rather than
yeah,
the Doctor getting attracted to Rose.
yeah,
There obviously is an attraction, and you know that he pined for her when she got trapped. But at the end of the day, did he make a play for her? I don't think so. I think she did. She had seen him change from
yeah,
something to something else, and then there was this. From my point of view, Rose become highly excited because of his enthusiasm. Yeah, let's go to New York, New
yeah,
York, New York, New York, you know, and all
yeah,
of this sort of stuff, and running about, and he's suddenly all like this and that, got a trendy long coat on, all of this sort of stuff, and he's there going, you know, that's my fighting hand, and all of
yeah,
this sort of stuff, and she's mesmerized by the fact that this bloke's gone from this to this, and now it's of an age where I could probably fall for him, and he could probably fall for me because he's not Chris Eccleston's age. Not saying that
yeah,
Chris Eccleston was old, but David Tennant was certainly younger than him,
yeah,
or
yeah,
running around with more
yeah,
energy than him. And
yeah,
he was doing silly things as well, like overemphasizing words
yeah,
like ood and using timey wimey and all of this sort of, you know,
yeah,
sort of a language that, you know,
yeah,
that seemed in with the kids.
yeah.
Chris
But
Eccleston didn't do that. He wasn't in with the
yeah,
kids type thing. You know what
I
I
think
mean?
that I don't want to make Doctor Who as if he's a cold character, because he's not. Because you can
No.
see it that he actually gets really attached to his companions, and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
really cares for them. I mean, for me, one of the saddest scenes in Doctor Who, I always say it, and you probably know what I'm going to say, is the Green Death.
Oh, yeah,
When
yeah, yeah.
Joe leaves, and he's devastated. He's absolutely devastated. You see that lonely figure
And
of the
yeah, I
Doctor.
will say this. The funny thing about that, about the Green Death, is the preceding story is what? Planet of the Daleks? Right.
Yes, yeah,
And Planet of the Daleks, she was asked, "Do you want to come back with me?" To one of the crew of the Files. Said, "Do you want to come? Hey, do you want to come back with me?" And she turned him down. Said, "No, I'm going to go back
yes,
with the
yeah,
Doctor."
that's right.
Very
Yeah.
next story, she buggers off.
She's fallen in love with the, yeah, but it's writers have to do this, I suppose. That's how they do it. But I
The
just
reason
thought it was,
the reason I brought up Rose
yeah,
is Rose showed her true colours a little bit when Sarah Jane came back, because she got dead jealous. What do you
yes,
mean? What do
yeah,
you mean you're one of his companions? What do you mean that he just left you to one side? Oh, he'll never do that with me because I'm just too buddy
yeah,
with the Doctor
yeah.
and all
You're
of this
right.
sort of
You're
stuff.
right. Yeah, we got
So
that
I'm pretty
earlier.
sure that he wasn't oblivious to this. He's in the
Yeah,
background going, "Oh, K9, all this sort of stuff," right? But he's there showing his love for Sarah Jane, because in his brain he's going, "Oh, I
yeah,
remember Sarah Jane," and all
yeah,
of this sort of stuff.
yeah,
Getting Rose to one side for a bit,
yeah,
she's dead jealous, and from that moment on, you couldn't part those two. It's like, "Oh, I'm hanging on to you for dear life."
yeah,
And that's where I'm saying the writers therefore brought in Frida Agyeman, or whatever her name was. I think
yeah.
that's right, what the name was. And she fell in love with the Doctor. But this
That's
is
right.
where it gets sexualized from my point of
Yeah,
view, because he
yeah,
had just lost her. Doctor's vulnerable because he's thinking about Sarah Jane, and then he's lost Rose, and he's thinking to
yeah,
himself, all the companions I've ever been with have always ended up not
yeah.
going in the way that I want them to go away.
That's
Here's
right.
and he's going, "I'm going to keep you at arm's length
Yeah,
because I can't get attached, because if I do get attached, I'm going to
yeah,
get hurt myself," right? And she gets hurt. But what I'm trying to say is she wants it to become a sexual thing. She really wants the Doctor for her to be with her. And this is where it goes over the top with
yeah,
over sexualizing Doctor Who.
yeah.
You see what
I
I mean?
mean,
You've got nowhere else to go.
yeah. I always think one of the saddest things, and it happens almost so quickly, is in The Hand of Fear, where Sarah
Oh, yeah.
Jane leaves really quickly. You don't
Yeah.
expect it. And he gets this call. He's got to go back to
Yeah,
Gallifrey.
Gallifrey, yeah.
And it's kind of, you might expect almost somewhat more bigger and a bigger farewell for Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
But he's
she's just whistling, isn't she?
Yeah.
And it comes to a scene of her sort of looking at the up at the sky or something to the left, and the music just plays, doesn't it? I mean, I think famously they said later on, I think she left him. He left her in Scotland or something. She had to try and get her way back down to Unit down south. Because I thought to myself, I hope she's got her purse on her, because I tell you what. Money's going to be sort of like a bit of a tricky. How are you going to get onto a train and get down south, or even find 10 pence to phone up the Unit? Now, do you know if Unit's even still around? And I was thinking all these things. It's like, bloody hell.
Yeah. Oh, right. I think what I'll do now is
you're going to read out a few things, are you?
Yeah, we'll do that. Read out some more, some comments, and then we'll go through each Doctor.
All right.
Okay. So here we have got Si. Evening, gang. I'll probably be quiet on the stream tonight, as I'm not the Whovian like most here tonight. Oh,
I thought this about Si, and I thought to myself, do you know what? He could probably talk about the Peter Cushing Doctor Who's. I'm bound sure he's seen those two films.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, Peter Cushing. And then we've got Rocket Bunny. Doctor Who. Hey, the TARDIS. Good evening, all, and happy episode to Ian and Del. Thank you so much. I know it's wonderful. I can't believe it. 100 episodes. Amazing. No. And then we've got Rocket Bunny saying hi, Si, and Si saying, oh, yeah, happy century to Ian and Delboy. And Si saying hi, Rocket Bunny. And then Tony York's. There we are. Tony York is yes, put on there. Evening, Ian, Del, and chat, and congratulations on reaching 100. The stream that is not you, Ian, or Del.
Yeah, it must be quite upsetting for Tony York, because there's no Tony York corner. There's no Doctor Who episode sent by Tony York to Ian ever in existence, right? So hard luck and bollocks to you, Tony. So tough shit. They are now on to the next one.
I know Tony likes John Pertwee. John Pertwee is his favourite, I think. Early John Pertwee, I think. Yeah.
No Tony York corner.
No Tony York corner. Brilliant. And Tony says hi, Si and Rocket, and then hi, Tony, and then hey, Tony. Will they close? Were they close enough? I reckon. Oh,
well, you're right.
Young at art on as the song goes. Ah, yeah, I get it. It's cold in North Kent tonight. Had to put the heating back on again. Rocket Bunny. North Kent. I think I might have a wee dram, a celebration of the lads tonight. Well, thank you.
That's very nice.
Very nice. Yeah. And then Si says, you should be up here in the North Tyneside coast, Rocket Bunny. Right.
I tell you what, I've been to Whitley Bay in November, December. It's bloody freezing cold.
It will be proper parky. Tony Oaks, never mind, the cost will drop in April, but don't mention July. Ah, yes. Anywhere north of the Watford Gap is too cold for me. Sigh, that's Rocket Bunny. Oh dear. Here we go. You southern softy. Sigh says.
That's the same as me, though.
So I honestly thought that you were in Scotland, Rocket Bunny. I think that's Wee Bob Art, isn't it, that we see in Scotland?
Yes, it is. Wee Bob Art is in Scotland, yeah.
I just had to Google entropy and still don't fully understand it, Tony.
Wow. Just before you go any further, Ian needs to tell the world, but I suppose he's leaving it to me, that he never told me what the bloody format was. I told him last week what I was going to do, and he
Yeah.
turns round, gives me the wrong link. And when I actually do get the correct link, and it's gone past 8 o'clock, he says, "By the way, the format's this today."
Yeah.
So
you can blame me, but you're doing all right, lad. So don't worry about it. Just do it. Yeah. And then
well, I'll tell you what. Can anybody guess, now that you've seen entropy in the name that I've got there, what I was going to be discussing in regards to season and possible episode?
Right. Okay.
Entropy is mentioned quite a bit.
You weren't going to discuss it. Don't worry. You can talk about that episode.
No, I'm just saying. While you're reading this out, somebody can start talking, start writing it down there as a guest, can't they?
So Tony York says, "Don't remember exactly when I began watching Who. Would be at some point during the Pertwee era, as I didn't see any black and white episodes when first broadcast."
No, there's only old fogies like Ian.
Old fogies like me. Mid-60s should be the height of Dalek mania. 60s were that early period, yeah. Rocky Bunny, earliest memories for me and Doctor Who, preschool toddler in hospital. I clearly remember being in isolation, reading a Doctor Who annual starring John Pertwee. I can still picture it. Doctor Who annuals. That's another subject, but I won't go into that. Rocket Bunny says, on TV, I remember season 17 very clearly for some reason. The City of Death episode cliffhanger where Scaroth rips his face off, revealing the tentacled alien with one eye. Gave me amazing nightmares. Yeah, it's a classic scene. That's what I mean. Those endings of episodes, we miss all that, nowadays. They were great.
Oh, I mean, I mentioned and said that, the Planet of the Spiders and John Pertwee turning into Tom Baker is a vivid memory of mine. And I said, if you were to honestly ask me, would I remember too many stories in the 70s? What I mean by that is, of course, there are certain ones, because even the very next year, I can still see right now Tom Baker holding the two wires together. Saying, do I have the right? Do I have the right?
Yeah.
And I always remember the woman in the Hand of Fear that you were talking about, because that crystalline monster was a girl at first, and then turned into a right rocky bloody bloke sort of thing. And I thought the girl looked quite sexy, to be quite honest. And yet I was only about 6 or 7 years old with all of that. I definitely remember Davros coming back with the second Romana. There are stories that I will remember. It's just, what I'm trying to say is, if you were to ask me like whole seasons of episodes, I wouldn't remember. I was 8 and 9 and 10. I just can't.
That and being chased by Daleks up and down corridors with the Malavians in Destiny of the Daleks, of course. I used to wake up thrilled for having those nightmares.
Suzanne Dando was in that.
If John Nathan Turner had gone earlier, the series would almost certainly have been cancelled after the trial of the Time Lord. Interviews with most of the production.
He kept it going. He definitely kept it going. But I still think that he was probably a year or two past what he should have been. I still say that. Barry Letts was only there for 5 years before he turned around and said, "I'm off."
And then Rocket Boy says the only reason it continued was that John Nathan Turner stayed and said he would do it reluctantly. And then Rocket Boy, I think script editor Andrew Cartmel, never gets enough credit regarding the quality of Sylvester's last 2 series. He had a clear plan. That's it, for the development of the characters, Ace in particular. And didn't they pursue some of that in the the books, the novels that Virgin did? I think they continued some of that. And then no Tony York corner. Oh, there you are. And then,
do you know what? I think there's a missing piece in the puzzle here. When Doctor Who came, do you know what? When Doctor Who came back, do you know they should have brought Jerry Goldsmith to do the score for it.
Oh, here we go. We had to get it in. Even in our 100th episode, you
I
can't
bet
help
some people were thinking, how's he going to get Jerry Goldsmith into a Doctor Who stream? There you are, did it? Look, there you are. No,
Yeah,
but he would have been
it's funny.
interested to do the score, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it would. And yeah, believe it or not, Del, my granddad took me to the Tyneside cinema back in the late 70s and early 80s to see the Peter Cushing Doctor Who films. Brilliant.
Yeah.
After you saw me,
I must have seen one of those Doctor Who films at Saturday Club.
Yeah,
Saturday
I did.
Movie Club. At least once, along with the Flash Gordon serial episodes and all of
Oh, I saw them at cinema. Oh yeah, brilliant.
That's so good to know. That's so good to know that, Si. So
yeah. And then, oh crikey, we've got here. Listen, we've got Jamie. Good evening, Mel, Bush, and Ace. Just popping in to say congratulations on your 100th episode. Not really interested in Doctor Who, so won't be sticking around too long. Well, thank you for popping in anyhow. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I mean, not everybody can like Doctor Who, and I can totally
everybody's saying. Wait until we do Star Trek in the future sometime.
yeah. Then we'll have 5 people watching.
And then,
especially with the cancellation this week,
Muckman and Muckman says, "Good evening, Tony, Si, and Bunny." And Tony says, "Evening, Jamie." And then we've got to the last one. So, hi, Jamie. So we'll continue now. So what I'm going to go through is each Doctor, and you pick an episode that you think is your, just one that you just want to mention that you like. It doesn't have to be obvious ones. I know you. I should have explained this a bit better to you, and then we'll go into a deep, as they say nowadays, deep dive or whatever that means. It means going into more detail. But we'll start off with what episode would you pick for William Hartnell that sticks in your mind? That you.
I mean, what sticks in my mind again is another regeneration episode, but. And you've just been talking about it with the 10th Planet.
Yeah, I've been reviewing that recently.
But I mean that heavily advertises your channel. But I suppose really, if I think back to when I was getting Doctor Who on videotape, it must have been around those times where I was watching the Doctor Who Dalek episodes, and in particular, I think what really captured my imagination and my memory was the second time the Daleks were used, which the Dalek invasion of Earth 20.
That's right, it's classic.
And I think it's because even now it's been well parodied. The closing moment with Sony, where with Susan, where he's saying, "One day I will come back. Yes, I shall come back.
Yeah, that's
Till
right.
then, there should be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forth in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine." And I know that off by heart, and I wasn't even thinking about talking about William Hartnell today. So it must have something of a resonance with me. So I think I'm going to have to go with that, because seeing the Daleks come out of the water and all of that sort of stuff was really well done for its time.
Yeah, it was.
And going over Tower Bridge. And,
yeah, exactly.
There are iconic moments, and probably far too many times that they've done a sequence like that waters it down a little bit. Like seeing the Sidemen go down past, the Royal Albert Hall and all of that.
Yeah.
But I still think it holds up. I'll say that. I'll go with the Daleks, the second big Dalek story.
Yeah. Now, when I was thinking, I thought, well, I could go for some obvious ones that I really like of William Hartnell. But then I thought, this episode I've only just fairly recently watched, and it sticks in my mind because it's such a really good episode. And this is late William Hartnell. It is. You might have guessed what it is. It's the War Machines, which is 1966. And I love this episode. When I watched it again, I thought, this is so good. Hartnell is leaving. He's not that well. But his performance in this story is really good. It's a great almost farewell. I know that 10th Planet is his farewell episode. And he's clearly not that well in 10th Planet. And this one, he manages to get a spark in it. And what I like about this episode, it's 1966, and we get Doctor Who in sort of contemporary time in the 60s when it was there. So we get the swinging 60s, and there's some great scenes when the Doctor goes in the nightclub, and there's Ben and Polly, and absolutely love it. And of course, the other thing is the Post Office Tower. Post Office Tower represents that sort of future that people were looking forward to. Technology, this big technology with the post office, and also the anticipation of the internet, where you've got computers going to be talking to other computers.
Yeah.
And you've got that in the story. And then you've got, again, another sort of look almost into the future of what's going to happen. We see the army involved in this. And this is before UNIT and all that sort of stuff comes in, which I think is interesting to see. I think this story is...
It's a bit of swinging London in that as well.
I think it's different from what we've perhaps seen in some of the earlier... I mean, I could pick quite a few. William Hartnell, I really have a lot more respect for him. Having watched all his... all his episodes and reviewed them, but I just thought this was a really, to me, it's a great episode. It's a good 60s episode, and it's like recognizing the period in time, and you can watch it and really enjoy it. And the concept is good. I like the stories. These thing with the army and okay, these actual machines aren't that. They look a bit Clumberson and a bit... Yeah. But it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. I like the concept behind it, and to think that was sort of high-tech 60s, the Post Office Tower. It's really good. I just like it. It's something about that episode. So I'll mention that one. So next we'll go on to, now this I know is going to be difficult for you, but you could choose anything. It is, what would you choose to talk about Patrick Troughton? What episode would you talk about? And you can talk, if you want to, you can talk about the missing episodes, but it'd be nice to talk about one that people could actually watch that is available to watch in the archive.
Patrick Troughton's really, I must admit, is really difficult. Because if I was to be truthful to myself, I'd probably, there'd be quite a few. I'd have a top 5, but if I was to think of a top 3, there would be let's see, the Moon Base, Tomb of the Cybermen, and probably the War Machines. Now, I've always
the War Games.
The War Games. Yeah, sorry. So, and I think the reason when it comes to Patrick Troughton is there are times where he comes across as very sentimental and melancholy. What I mean by that is in the Moon Base, he sort of like turns to the camera and he says, there is evil in this universe and dark things and all of this sort of stuff going on. And, and he's sort of like got his hands up and he's sort of like talking like this, and then he'll turn around and talk to his companions. And in Tomb of the Cybermen, he would be turning around and talking about the death of someone and say, they're never really gone. We can bring them forward in our eyes and remember them of how they were and all of this sort of stuff.
Lovely.
There was these sorts of moments that make me go, what a nice thing to say. And then what a high drama it is type thing to to say about the evil in this universe and all of this sort of stuff. And when it comes to, you know, the war games, it was just a lot of people talked about it being too long, and yet I've watched it numerous times, and each time I've gone, oh, I'm never going to be able to get through 10 episodes. I better not start it now. But when I've started it, I ain't stopped. I've got all the way to the end.
It is, yeah.
So if that doesn't tell you something about a character actor like Patrick Troughton, I don't know what it is. But I think the high point for me would have been Tomb of the Cybermen. I remember being giddy when they were bringing that out as a VHS tape.
Well, they discovered it because it was one that everybody always said it was like it's like we think of the 4th episode of the 10th Planet. If you ask Doctor Who fans what story they would like to see, they would have said Tomb of the Cybermen, and then lo and behold, they found it. It meant a lot.
Yeah. Wonderful. So Tomb of the Cybermen, I was counting down the weeks for that to actually be out. I'd pre-ordered it, I think, with WH Smith, I think it was, that I actually got it from, funnily enough. And when I was watching it and I saw that moment where he was talking to Vicky, wasn't he? It was Vicky at the time. He was talking about that, you know, they're not really gone. You know, you can bring them.
Right, yeah.
I just went, wow, what a great thing. And then when I saw him sort of like toying with these people, because they were doing these logic things with the errors, and he would say, while they were moving down the bank of controls, he'd go there and flip one of the switches round and go, oh, I see what you're trying to do there. Yeah. When actually he knew exactly how this logic board was supposed to work, and he'd flip the switches around, you know, and all of that sort of stuff. You know, it's that mischievous bit that I think there are many things that people have honed in on what Patrick Troughton was and have brought it into their characters. You see what I mean? I don't see many people bringing a scarf in or anything like that. You know what I mean? I think that they've seen a character actor with a trait and used that trait in their own rendition of the Doctor later on. And I don't see many of them like changing their voice to have a big amount of gravitas behind it, like Tom Baker had with his voice or anything like that. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of whimsical, where he'd get into high danger and say, "What a jelly baby," and all of this sort of stuff. You know, maybe there is a bit of that they've taken away from Tom Baker. But I think there's a reason why a lot of people choose Patrick Troughton, and mine is just he's just so nice. He's just so lovely.
Yeah,
he's just so mischievous as well.
Also, I think it's important to say that for Doctor Who to get Patrick Troughton was a great thing, because he was a well-respected actor. As you know, he really was. That was really quite an important point. They got a really good actor from Doctor Who. Fantastic.
There's just so many things I could mention. I mean, even in the Five Doctors, oh, you've changed the place. Don't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's almost like you can't shut your mouth up, can you? You're just supposed to say, "Oh, you've changed the place." You're not supposed to say, "Don't like it."
Yeah.
You're just supposed to say, and just then, "Oh, I'm glad that you like it," and then just shut up, Patrick.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? He has to turn around and go, "Oh, yeah, I didn't like my replacement either." You know what I mean? He had so many sort of those lines that sort of like stole everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yesterday's times, or tomorrow's times, or whatever it is. I mean, these moments make that Five Doctors work.
Yeah.
I mean, I can still now listen to it and go, "It's off to Rassilon's Tower we go, must choose a bum."
Yeah, all that. Yeah.
He must have just stolen all the great lines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So if I have to choose one, I think with Patrick Troughton, they had a series called The Five Faces of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I remember they showed the Crotons, which is not a very good episode, really. It's okay. I kind of like it, even though it's not good. It's got a lot of limitations. But they could only show that because it was the only 4-part episodes that they had in the archive. If they'd have had Tomb of the Cybermen, they would have shown Tomb of Cybermen. But they had to show
they
the
didn't, did they?
Crotons. Anyhow. What I'm going to choose is again. I don't think it's the greatest Patrick Troughton episode, but it means a lot to me because of the circumstances behind it. And again, it's a last season episode, and it is The Seeds of Death, 1969, which is an Ice Warrior episode. Now, when I got this and put that in, on the VHS tape,
yeah,
and I was just absolutely loving it. Just seeing these black and white episodes and seeing the transmat beam in there, which is how they transported things around the world and what have you, to the moon and everything. And then the Ice Warriors with their voices, and just seeing in the black and white story on VHS, it just blew me away. And I just thought, wow. So I've got a lot of affection for that story. I mean, I know it's not the greatest of the stories. It's perhaps a bit too long.
Yeah, they called it T-Mat, didn't they? They called it T-Mat.
It is 6 parts, but to be honest, I enjoy it so much. I don't mind it being dragging on and a bit repetitive, because it's Patrick Troughton, and he's still the one that we'd love to have more episodes returned. I don't know the stats, but I suspect he's got more missing episodes than any than even William Hartnell. I don't know the stats on that, but it's just such a shame that we haven't seen more Patrick Troughton. So anyhow, I better move on now. So that's the choice.
Every time somebody mentions that story, I always have the noise of the computer going on in my head.
Yes, it is memorable. It's very memorable, and
because they said this sort of like this. I don't know if it was a computer, but it was definitely an announcement that just kept going. T1000 going along. It was always in sort of like monotone type thing.
Yeah.
And I just I just thought it wasn't annoying. Why am I not annoyed by this after about God knows how many episodes of hearing this voice, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get annoyed with it one bit, and yet something where somebody is just holding their nose while talking, right, would have annoyed me.
Yes.
Right, back in the day, but it didn't.
Yeah.
The one thing that I remember totally about putting that VHS tape in was just how sharp and the quality of the black and white image was compared to the William Hartnell ones that I've.
That's right. Yeah.
I thought, what have they done to this picture? Because wow, isn't this sharp? I didn't know black and white was that sharp like that. You know what I mean? It was.
There was a restoration team that started to work on these tapes and the releases as well, wasn't there? And I think they helped a lot, the restoration team, in getting reasonable quality, that looked really, for us, was absolutely fantastic.
Well, as soon as I saw that episode, I scoured through my books to see if I could find any color telesnaps that might have been in magazines of that episode, so I could see what the actual set should have looked like if it was in color. It was one of the first times that I tried to find a black and white, to find a color picture of a black and white broadcast.
Yeah.
Right, because I wanted to know what Patrick Troughton's trousers would look like, what the set was, whether it was supposed to be black and gold or whatever it was supposed to be. I couldn't tell. I wanted to know if the girl's hair was blonde with the ponytail.
Yeah.
The one who came up from Earth to the moon to fix the T-Mat system.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, has she got blonde hair or what?
Yeah.
Because it's black and white, so you can't tell really. So I was going, I bet she was blonde.
I like the fact that the Ice Warriors are just as ruthless as the Daleks. If people don't do what they say, they get rid of them. They killed
Oh,
them,
yeah.
don't they? And
Yeah.
they're really good. I think the Ice Warriors. I really enjoy them. Yeah,
But that's a very good choice, and I must admit that was a fan favorite. That was a favorite of mine, but it was
yeah,
superseded later on by. I mean, I could have mentioned Web of Fear. Web of Fear.
yeah,
I always loved the idea of the TARDIS being wrapped up in cobwebs.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
got a vivid image of
yeah,
the TARDIS being encapsulated in cobwebs and then it not being there anymore. And then I'd never, when I saw that episode, I hadn't really been on the underground much.
yeah.
So, so the underground sort of like intrigued me. Is it really like that in the underground? Bloody hell,
Mm.
well, that sort of stuff, because they were walking along these tracks for bloody ages. And I never knew whether it actually did look like that or not. Later on, I found out that they did film on the underground, when they were dealing with it. But, so there's a lot of things that I've picked up through Doctor Who through the years.
Yeah,
From somebody
yeah,
that didn't visit London very much, I was certainly getting an image of what London is.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it was exciting. I know I'm not a fan of VHS, but when VHS came out and there was no else, it was so exciting collecting them. Every
Yeah,
release,
yeah.
getting it the day it came out, and seeing stories that you perhaps couldn't remember, had never seen. Particularly the '60s ones. It was really great. The one thing they did do, as I remember, they did like the Patrick Troughton years. So they
Yeah.
picked individual episodes, and in them they had episodes which were on their own from stories that weren't complete. So that was good to see episodes. And of course, when DVD came along, they developed that, and you got a whole DVD set of all sort of odds missing episodes and
Yeah.
all sorts of things, which was really good. Right. So next comment. Doesn't Ian look so formal with his jacket? Very smart. Thank you. And then, of course, you have to say this. He's a 90-year-old Steve. Thank you so much. Speed or Steel Dell. Oh dear. And then here we've got Tony saying Dalek Invasion of Earth, favorite art novel for me. War Machines, second, excellent. Right. I think I'll move on some more. We've got.
Yeah, I think I'll talk about my next one, and then I'll have to have a little break with my legs. That's all.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to John Pertwee now, so I'm trying to move it on.
No, just while you're talking yours, I'll just take a quick break, and then I'll be back for.
Okay, John Pertwee. What shall I talk about here? I'm going to talk about. There's two I would mention, but I put Day.
So I don't go first again. Then this time you're swapping it around, and you're going.
No, you can go first. Sorry, I thought you were going off. I thought you.
No, I said I'll do after. I'll talk about mine, then I'll let you talk about yours.
Do that. Go on. Yeah, sorry.
But it's pretty easy for John Pertwee, because I've never made it any clearer than I've ever done in my life in regards to my favorite John Pertwee story, even though there are absolutely so many of them. The first time that I saw Inferno, I was blown away. My God, what a story Inferno was. And all of the going into another alternative version and seeing Unit with the Brigadier with an eye patch on and all of this sort of stuff, and the fact that he sees how it ends up and then he has to try and save I just thought what a great thing it was. And this was probably around about the same time that I'd seen the Mirror Mirror episode of Star Trek. I must have seen Inferno around about the time of me seeing Star Trek, the original series with Mirror Mirror. And I could see where they sort of like nicked the idea from, if you see what I mean, because that's John Pertwee's first season and it's 1970. and Mirror Mirror would have been 1967. So that must have been in someone's mind, I think, when they wrote that story. You know what I mean? When they said, "Oh, we could do our own Doctor Who version of that. I think we'll do that." But I mean, I loved Planet of the Spiders. You know, there are so many, you know,
A
that I
lot of
like
people
of John
would
Pertwee.
rate Planet of the Spiders, I think, as one of their
Spearhead from Space is just such a great episode. Because I think that's how you do a regeneration story now. He's scatty, he's running around, all of this sort of stuff. There are things that you could take away. I love the Three Doctors because I like the fact that that John Pertwee and Patrick Troughton always seem to give off this we don't like each other even at conventions. They would think, but actually they really did like each other. They were character actors that knew exactly what the game was in regards to acting. So, and they had a great respect for each other. So anyway, I'm going off the beaten track. Inferno. I will go with that, and there are many reasons for it. I think it gives John Pertwee a great role that he was now getting totally under his skin on how it should be done. But from the rest of the cast, it was like, now you can start stretching your acting ability because you're going to do two different characters of yourself. He's the one character that can't do the two different characters because he's the one thing that doesn't change out of the two different universes.
Yeah.
But everybody else around him have got to play two different types of those characters.
Yeah.
And that must have been an absolute joy as an actor to be given that sort of like choice. From John Pertwee's point of view, he could just carry on getting it right on what the Doctor should be played like, and that he was going to carry on now for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, I love the idea of all the volcanoes and stuff that's at the beginning, and it came up with the word inferno. I loved it all. I don't know what it is. He had the first remote control garage door that I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are so many firsts for that particular story that I've just said Inferno for me. And it's funny how that season is full of 7-episode versions, isn't there? I mean, Ambassador Death is 7. You got Inferno, that's 7. You got, do you know what I mean? It's only the Spearhead from Space that's got 4, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Other than that, they're all 7, 7, 7, 7.
Yeah.
And yet Doctor Who is well known for 6 and 4 episode stories.
Yeah.
But that particular season, 7 was the magic number. It was really weird.
When you compare it with the other Pertwee series, do you think its tone is a bit different than the others?
What, the first that first season of John Pertwee?
You think the way it is it, and if that is so, do you think it's because they introduced Joe as a character?
I think it's more to do with the Master introduction.
Right. Yeah.
See, the very next season, and in the very first episode, they bring out the Doctor's Moriarty.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's it. As soon as that occurred, the whole thing changed. You see what I mean? His companions have come and gone, and they've all done their own sort of like way. Barry Letts even turns around and says it's a shame because even he couldn't shake you can't have somebody more intelligent than the Doctor, and you've always got to have somebody that gets into peril, and the Doctor has to try and get them out of it. So they were always trapped a little bit. That's why I have great respect for Jo, because she tried to turn that around.
Do you think
she really couldn't quite do
it? They chose Jo really because she could be more of the screaming companion?
That's right, and that's why you don't. That's why you don't see the companion like you do in the first season of John Pertwee's. You know what I mean? It's she was a scientist and almost was trying to be. Don't be a fool, Doctor. You can't talk about changing the laws of physics and stuff when
Yeah.
he's actually a Time Lord and trying to explain to her, actually, I know more about it than you do,
Yeah. Yeah.
dear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were all you can't have that bickering.
Yeah.
So she then turned into a same as Joe at the end, and then she said, I'm not going to carry on doing a story like that. I was interested at the beginning, and then you changed it all to me being a
Yeah.
screaming silly
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
woman, you know, and I'm not having that. You see what I mean? So she had to go. Barry recognized that the audience wants a screaming person like Joe Grant, brought her in.
Mm.
And he only started to change it around a little bit with Sarah Jane. And that
Yeah.
was in the
Yeah.
last season of John Pertwee's tenure.
That's right.
I will
Yeah.
say this. I really loved the title sequence of John Pertwee's last season because
Yeah.
that was the first time you had the time corridor
Yeah.
effect that was so iconized, you know, such an icon for Tom Baker. But
I really
that,
enjoy that last John Pertwee series. I think I really like it.
it
I
starts
like
off
his
strong, doesn't
relationship
it? It
with
starts
Sarah
off,
Jane.
you've got the perfect start for me because you're talking about medieval England.
Yeah, exactly. And
You know
that's
what I
one of
mean?
my favorite stories, The Time Warrior.
Yeah. So, I mean, you couldn't have started it better if you tried.
Yeah, yeah. And and the thing is, Sarah Jane is brilliant in it. She makes such a good start. She's the journalist, and she thinks that it's like when she goes back in time, she doesn't believe she's gone back in time. She thinks they're all
Yeah.
just enacting this medieval kind of
Like medieval
world in that.
castle banquet thing or something.
Yeah, she's it's great. It's absolutely wonderful.
It's good. You know, there's some bits in it that don't hold up too well. I think he got on my nerves a little bit. That short-eyed scientist that turned around and said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, I think I've been taken out of time and I've been brought back here and I'm doing this."
Oh,
He
the
got
one
on my
without the
nerves after a
glasses.
while.
There's the one that hasn't got any glasses, is there?
That's what I said. He's the short-sighted scientist that really got on my nerves after a while.
Yeah.
But you know, like I said, I'm going to shut up there because I've chosen Inferno, but there are so many. I even like Planet of the Dinosaurs. Sorry, I even like the dinosaur.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you. I mean, the Damons is a classic, but I'm going to let you.
I mean,
I'm going to let you. I'm sorry about this, guys, but when my mum's sort of fell on me, she hurt my leg. So I just need to walk it off. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just walking.
I'll just
off.
carry on then with John Pertwee.
So I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, right. He'll be back for Tom Baker. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. So I think John Pertwee's got such a lot of great stories, and it's difficult to choose really ones that stand out. I think the one that stands out for me is a Dalek story, and it was heralded at the time as a big return for the Daleks. Because, as I said, I think we might have mentioned it before that by sort of late 60s, I think there was a Dalek fatigue. People had started to had enough of the Daleks, and they were kind of given a rest. And then in 1972, with a lot of publicity, the Daleks were back, and it is, of course, the Day of the Daleks. And this 1972 episode was publicized a lot. We saw the Daleks, back. They were saying and all that, and it's a really good story. It's got its limitations. I think one of the limitations was that when they did this, they discovered they didn't have many Daleks, and the story we're supposedly seeing masses of Daleks, and I think there's only 3, and they did sort of digitalize it and put special effects in later editions, but we didn't get the Dalek flick. But I put that aside because this is a story which is before the Terminator. Yes, perhaps James Cameron was a Doctor Who fan and got the idea, because here you have people from the future trying to change the past. They're coming back because it's the sort of unit headquarters, and the doctor is called in because they said, "Oh, we people keep seeing ghosts," and what have you. And the doctor, of course, is very rational and doesn't believe in any of that goings on. But we end up seeing that there are people coming from the future to assassinate this the one who's in charge of this conference. There's going to be a peace conference, and they believe that if this peace conference, what is happening there will affect their future, and if they could assassinate this man who's in charge, it won't take place, and the future won't be bad. They won't have the Daleks who control they've taken over basically. It's a great story, absolutely, and I love the fact that it is ahead of its time in that sense. No pun intended there, but it's a great story. I said there are limitations in it, but it doesn't matter. It never bothered me at all. I just loved it. I absolutely loved the time travel. As I say, it's one of my favorite Dalek stories because of that. Despite its limitations on budget, I think they do a great job on a great story and a great idea. And I'm sure James Cameron was looking in. It's just great. I love it. And I would just choose as another one. I would just choose the Time Warrior, which introduces. We did talk a little about that with introducing Sarah Jane, and it's her opening episode, and it's a historical one with a great sci-fi element. I just think it's great with the song introducing the Sontanans. Sontanans have got a great sort of reputation. They're a good creation amongst Doctor Who fans. Though in classic Doctor Who, we didn't get them that much as I think some people would have thought. We'd have had more of the Sontanans. We didn't actually get a great deal of them. But that kind of perhaps strengthens our belief in the Sontanans that we liked them. But I think they were a really good villain. But I'm going on too long. I want to move on. That is the Time Warrior. I would mention that as one. So we'll move on now to perhaps what many people would consider the iconic Doctor Who, the Doctor Who. I think because of the length of time he was Doctor Who and how he sort of really changed the role in many ways, what he brought to it. Each Doctor brings something different. And Tom Baker epitomized what a lot of people believed in Doctor. And Doctor Who is really at its height now. It dominates everywhere. It's into the mainstream news again when anything happens with Doctor Who. And of course, a bit of controversy helps, and we get the Mary Whitehouse years with Silence, which continues. And Tom Baker is just a great era. So do you want to talk about Tom Baker first?
Well, I always consider Tom Baker as the Doctor with the longest running Doctor, although it really, to be quite honest, you have to consider the fact that John Pertwee did it for 5 years. It's only another 2, really. You have to look at it from that. I've always turned around and said, why does an extra 2 years have to make such a big difference? But Tom Baker was a form of change and sort of like so many firsts. Do you see what I mean? It was the first time that I saw a whole season be one continuing story. It was the first time that I saw a Doctor with no companion in a story. It was there were so many sort of like thirsts going on, and I couldn't quite remember. Actually, I was thinking about this while I was just stretching my legs when I was thinking about what I was going to say about Tom Baker. What was the point where he didn't wear a hat? Right, because he had a hat on at the beginning.
Yeah,
but he didn't have that hat all the time,
No.
right? I can't remember if it was an episode he lost it.
Yeah.
Right?
He used it sometimes as quite important props. The
Yeah,
scarf and the hat.
yeah.
He was so clever at
And he
using
always
it.
used to use the
Prop.
scarf to trip somebody up with, or
Yeah.
something like this, or it use it to try and grab something by using it like a lasso or whatever it was. But I just remember going, he had a hat, and then he didn't. Well, I can't remember quite why he didn't have a hat on. I had a story that I was going to explain, and I'll probably do it at the end if we've got time. But I've got to. But I think for me, Tom Baker, it's all the voice, isn't it? Really, as much as people know he had an iconic outfit on, the scarf being talked about the most, but it was always tweed, wasn't it? It was always
Yeah.
It was almost like you're like my English teacher, but with a scarf and a hat. You know what I mean? He had curly hair. He had the same nose as John Pertwee, I thought, which is why I always thought Tom Baker just looks like a very young John Pertwee when the regeneration occurred. Thought there ain't much of a change. He's just younger, and he's got the same nose. You know what I mean?
Do you think that he's a doctor that we accepted straight away, even in Robot? And sometimes it took a while to get used to a doctor, but Tom Baker was so good in Robot. You immediately, he's a doctor, and got in straight away. That shows you.
There was that scattiness about it because he came out once with a Harlequin type bloody jacket.
Oh yeah, there was
all of that sort of stuff. But instantly, I knew he was the doctor. He was running up. He was in front of. Forgot his name now. The real doctor of unit. Oh God, what's his name? Anyway, he was running along, said, "Measure my hearts."
Oh yeah,
and all this sort of stuff. And he chopped a brick in half and ran and all of
Harry
this.
Sullivan.
Harry Sullivan, yeah, that was it. Harry Sullivan.
Yeah.
Right. How I could forget that name, I don't know. Yeah, Harry Sullivan, which by the way is such a shame his ending.
He died so young.
So young.
Yeah. And he was also a writer for Doctor Who. He wrote a lot of the Target novels.
I mean, but I will stick with there's so many firsts in it. You've got so much forward thinking in this. Who'd have thought that somebody would have said, "Yeah, do you know what? You got to have a creator of the Daleks. We got to invent someone," and then making that iconic design of the bottom part of it being a Dalek base and the top part being sort of like a weird alien type head with no eyes, with the eyes shut, and one singular blue sort of like. I mean, Davros is so iconic, isn't it? From the moment you saw Davros, you went, "That's just how I thought the creator would look like." You know what I mean? It's not going to be some scientist or anything like this, right? It's going to be an alien-looking thing, and he's going to be malevolent, so he's going to have that voice. "I will make me up above the gods," and all of this sort of stuff. I mean, what was his name? Maloney. Is that his name? Who did the voice of the? No, that was the second person who played Davros. Was Maloney, wasn't it?
Oh, Malloy.
Malloy. Anyway, but anyway, Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah. Michael Wisher.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, because like I said, I think Malloy was Colin Baker or something like the second or third.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are so many good ones. You've got City of Death, love that.
Oh yeah, and that is the highest viewed Doctor Who story, isn't it? There was a strike on ITV.
Even though it was just running around Paris an awful lot, right? It was the idea that this ship took off, blew up, created the whole human race.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor said, "We can't have this fixed moment in time. Stop. We've got to stop this." And they went back and they actually witnessed it happening and all of this sort of stuff. That that pool of gunk that you've just put your hands in, that's you, that is, and all of this sort of stuff. I mean, and of course you can talk about the John Cleese bit as much as you want, but that, it was just great. But for me, the biggest and best season has always been the horror element one. There are so many in there. You've got Brain of Morbius, you've got Seeds of Doom.
Yeah.
But I think if I was thinking about Tom Baker, and one that I will go back to and I'll watch it as many times as I need to, and I'll never get bored of it, it's Pyramids of Mars.
Yeah.
Classic. So even though I've got an episode here that equally means something to me that I was going to talk about today before somebody changed the whole format, not naming names, I will go with Pyramids of Mars, even though I've told you a million times, haven't I, how much Brain of Morbius means to me. Brain of Morbius is such a Frankenstein, takes me back to
that's right. It's brilliant. Yeah.
But I will go with Pyramids of Mars. It's got the Egyptian side of things. There is that iconic end of the first episode with I bring Sutek's gift of death. And you see the steam coming off of his shoulders,
it's wonderful.
Standing behind the sarcophagus, and I'm just going, wow, now this is a story and a half.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then there's all of the trappings while they're on Mars, and the idea that a signal would take several minutes to get from Earth to Mars. It's all very sciencey, and I went, wow, I've learned so much here. Of course, it would take time for even light to get from Earth to Mars. So of course, therefore, you have got a time limit that you can actually still fix this. So what a great episode. What a great episode. There are period ones, don't get me wrong. Talons of Weng Chiang comes to mind.
Oh, yeah. That's always considered one of the best episodes.
But I'm going to go with Pyramids of Mars, which is a period one in itself.
Yeah.
I even like the idea of them finding the tomb in Egypt, like King Tut.
Yeah. Yeah.
I even like that. And the character faces that are in that, I mean, he looks like he was some sort of archaeologist right at the beginning. You know what I mean? When they discover Sutek's tomb.
Yeah.
His face looked like an architect. I couldn't think of any more of what an architect might look like than that face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Okay, I think is excellent.
I'll tell you what, Brain of Morbius came bloody close.
Yeah, no, I agree. The thing is about Tom Baker, you can name a lot of episodes. That's the strength.
So many good ones.
There is. I mean, initially I thought, well, I'll pick the one that a lot of people would pick, which is Genesis of the Daleks. I think Genesis of the Daleks is always, if people say rank the best to worst episodes, it's always near the top of the top Genesis of the Daleks, because it is a brilliant one. But I've gone for one that I absolutely love. I don't know why I love it. Oh, I do know why. I just think it works well. It's Robots of Death, which is from 1977.
Yeah.
And you've got Leela in this one. It's a sort of almost Agatha Christie who done it.
Christie. That's exactly what it is. It's Agatha Christie in space.
But yeah, it's more than that. I was
gonna say, I bet you any money he's gonna bring June into this.
Yeah. I won't then. But I couldn't.
Tell me you were not going to bring June into this.
I think that what it is there's a model that is shown.
Yeah.
And it's like going across the planet, and you think, oh, Dune. I mean, you do think of it. But that actually, it's well done. I think that's good. What I'm going to bring into it is what I like about this series. It isn't just that. It's that you've got a crew here, and there's only one scientist aboard who gets murdered anyhow, right at the beginning, as discovered. But all these people on board are on there because they're after their money, basically. They're there to make money. It's not a scientific expedition. And this immediately made me think, I wonder if Ridley Scott looked at this episode and thought, hey, that's a good idea. We're in space and we've got just people who are not there for scientific reasons. They're there for money, which is what the Alien crew is there when we look at Alien. But maybe I'm just looking too far ahead, but it's an interesting idea. So I think that's good that we see that this story is about people who are there to make money. And then the other bit, of course, is the robots. And you know straight away, I mean, you get an unsettling feel about these robots and the design as well. The design is brilliant.
Well, their mouths don't move, do they?
No, they've got and I was looking, because I've watched it again, I was looking more at the sets as well, and it is Art Deco. It's pure Art Deco, the designs, and the robots fit in brilliantly. They're so sinister as well, and you've got the science fiction thing, Asimov doing this about robots, and they can't basically be programmed to kill, but of course they are programmed to kill. And though you work out fairly early on who's behind it all, even though they try and disguise it, because you can tell, it all comes down to this concept that this sort of madman, that's what you have to put in, grew up with robots and loves robots so much he wants to be like part of them, even though he's human. And he sees humans as the threat. And it soon becomes obvious what's going on the ship. All these murders keep happening. So you've got all that going on. And it kind of works so well. You know the mystery, you know what's going on, but you're wondering where it's going to go. And also, there's the other bit, which again is an interesting thing that Alien perhaps copied, is that you've got one of the robots that's been planted there by the company. Notice a company as well.
Yeah.
Involved. And this robot can talk. And he's there investigating what is going on, that things are not right. So I love that.
They have these discs, don't they?
Yeah, there's so many good things in it. And Leela's really good. I like Leela in it now. She's starting to develop as a character as well. And you start to get to like her more. Because I think problem with Leela was that, Sarah Jane is such an iconic companion. You just think, how is Leela going to develop? And I think this episode, she really starts to show us as an actress. I think she's doing a good job because she's really, you can feel her sympathy and a growing relationship with the Doctor, and he's starting to look after her, make sure she's, and teach her as well, because we get the famous scene where he's trying to, because she says, why is it bigger on the inside than on the outside? So we get the scene with the boxes, and he's got a box here and a box there, and it all looks very convincing as right. But I love her reply is, oh, that's silly. She keeps saying that's silly, but it's just, it's got the humor there as well, still with Doctor Who, and Tom Baker. He's just so comfortable in the role. This is just Tom Baker being brilliant as always. I mean, a thing to say about Tom Baker is there's not that many really bad episodes. There are a few that are weaker. Cons of Nimon, I would say, a lot of fans point to. But considering the amount of episodes he did, when we compare it with other Doctors,
the android invasion wasn't a particularly high point.
He hasn't got as many bad episodes, has he? Really?
No, and
Considering
like I
the
said,
amount.
the Android invasion was a
Yeah,
particularly
yeah, yeah.
mediocre
Actually, it's one that
episode.
a lot of people kind of. Yeah, I think you're right with that one. It's not very impressive, but I still think he say for that period of the time, he is the most iconic Doctor Who. And yeah, I think I
Oh
should
yeah.
move on now to the next Doctor.
I'll tell you, I mean, just before we move on, the
Yeah,
one thing that doesn't ring true to me when we talk about Leela in particular was how she remained on Gallifrey. If there was one companion that I would have thought definitely is not going to stay behind on
yes,
Gallifrey,
yeah,
it's her.
yeah,
Where
yeah,
is she going to fit in? She's a savage.
yeah,
Where
yeah,
the
yeah,
what is she staying behind for?
yeah.
A society of people that was so boring, even the Doctor ran away from it. And she's there
Yeah,
turning around and saying, "Yeah, I'm going to
yeah,
stay here."
yeah.
Eh?
That's true. I get you totally. It doesn't. Yeah, but yeah, uh,
That it never rang true with me. That I just went.
yeah.
And the
I,
one thing is
I
that
have read.
I never understood Sarah Jane never got to see
Yeah,
Gallifrey, and I think that would have been just the icing on the cake if she actually did actually get to go. But the Deadly Assassin was a
yeah.
story that had no
Oh,
companion
that is
in
a
it.
gem as well. What a story that is.
Um,
Um, and yeah, I think we'll have to move on now. So
yeah,
next Doctor, of course, is Peter Davison.
yeah.
So talk about Peter Davison and perhaps what is your favourite stories
This
of
is
Peter
hard.
Davison?
This one is really hard because Peter
Again,
Davison is.
I think I should just say before we do go on is that Peter Davison, I think, has really gone up over the years in appreciating how good he was as the Doctor.
Yeah.
That has happened. At the time, I think there was a bit of resistance. There was a bit of resistance because Tom Baker had such a big following, but he was such a good actor that he got over that, and then people did accept him, I think. Anyhow, what's your take?
Well, Ian's just taken away 10 minutes of what I was going to talk about. Only joking. The thing about Peter Davison is that I was in a minority where I liked him from the very start. I suppose the reason for that was I was just turning into my teens. So he came along at a point where I could now understand the stories and appreciate it more. So when Castrovalva came along, I thought this is a good story. And I found even all the other stories in that season were not too bad. It was just knocked down by the budgetary side of things, I always found the difficulty for me liking Peter Davison was more to do with how many companions were around. I thought that there were far too many for far too long, and they only started to knock it down when he was about to leave himself. So, I'd have liked it that there would only have been one or two companions, but it took a while. And then they brought another one in just as they got it down. So, they got it back up to 3 again. And I'm going, bloody hell. But it is amazing that so many people disliked Peter Davison or didn't talk about his portrayal of the Doctor in the same sort of light as Tom Baker. When you look at the stories, because there are less of them, because he only did it for 3 years, the quality of the episodes are actually quite good. I mean, I don't know too many people that say they don't like the 5 Doctors. Resurrection is brilliant. Everybody talks about Caves of Androzani. You've always turned around and said that you like the period pieces, and you've got a couple of period pieces here. You've got the Awakenings, haven't you? And you've also got the one where it was set in the 1920s, wasn't it? The other type of Agatha Christie type whodunit type thing. The 2-parter where he was dressed up again, wasn't he, as a Harlequin or whatever.
It's definitely a good variety of stories. I
Yeah.
think that's a strength of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to choosing a story here, most people will go to the last season because there is a very, very big uptick, I think, in regards to Caves of Androzani is great, Resurrection of the Daleks is great.
Yeah, I think
I
those
don't
two.
think too many diss Frontios, and I quite like
Yeah.
Frontios. You've like Awakening, so really then there's only Warriors of the Deep, and I know Rocket Buddy loves Warriors of the Deep, so that means
Yeah.
everybody's story in
Yeah.
that season, apart from the Colin Baker story, is actually
Yeah.
well respected in that particular
Yeah.
season. I really liked, and not many people do, Mordrin Undead. And the reason I liked Mordrin Undead was I liked the dilemma where there are 7 of them, 7 of me. Don't you understand? That would be the end of me as a Time Lord. I thought, what a cliffhanger that is. You know, they want to get rid of immortality. Immortality is a curse. It should never be a gift. And here we are. He could end their existence. They've been going for years and years and years, constantly mutating. And here's a person who comes along and says, I could kill you all. I could give you what you want, but it would mean me dying as well. What a dilemma, because his doctor is so twee, is so innocent, is so wanting to help everybody that he naturally goes, yeah, I'm going to have to kill myself, aren't I? And the whole story ends with the Brigadier coming out with the solution to it all. But I like the music in that. Again, it was synthesizers. I like the idea of the Black Guardian again coming back. He was brilliantly portrayed, isn't it, by Valentine? Is that his name?
Gil, yeah, yeah.
Fantastic voice, fantastic sort of crevice type face to him. He just looked like a Black Guardian. I can hear his voice now. You will do this, Turlo.
Yeah.
It did introduce Turlo. That's the shame. That's the shame of it all, because I never really liked Turlo. I don't know what. I would rather have. I would rather have Adric around than Turlo.
Yeah, I know, and that is saying something. I totally agree with you.
Right, so I don't know what it is, but Turlo just never did it.
It irritated me being in that school uniform all the time as well.
Oh, it's here's a person that wants to kill the Doctor, and then I'm supposed to trust you for the rest of when we finally find out that you got rumbled. I'm supposed to go, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, even though you've tried to kill me for the last 4 bloody stories, right? Straight.
Yeah.
I just don't see how that'd be. I'd be watching my back for the whole of my life with you around me. You know what I mean? Even Tegan turned around and said, I don't trust you as far as I can throw you.
Yeah.
All the way through it. Even when they're leaving, just go, Doctor, I really don't want to go, but up yours, Turlo.
I couldn't wait for him to get rid of him.
I can't wait to get rid of me going and leaving you behind.
It seemed to take ages to get rid of him. I thought,
and then his final story, Planet of Fire, is probably one of the weak ones, I would have said, of that season. I mean, okay, Perry raises the bar for obvious reasons. When you're
it's got Peter Wingard in it. Interestingly enough, hasn't it? That one.
So it's really hard because most people were going to turn around and say Caves of Androzani is the story to talk about when it comes to Peter Davison, because it really is probably the strongest Doctor Who story ever when you're talking at a certain point in time. It has been surpassed. It has been not now considered to be the quintessential Doctor Who, even though it's a bloody strong story. What will I choose then? I mean, I love the 5 Doctors. I could go with that, couldn't I? But that's a cheek. That's a cheek because that's an ensemble.
Yeah,
that's an ensemble. And I've already just talked about Mordrin Undead. The dilemma I thought was brilliant. 7 of them, 7 of me. Don't you understand? That's the end of me if I do what they give them. And the immortality and the fact that you got 2 brigadiers, I thought was absolutely marvelous. Seeing 2 brigadiers and him being a maths master at a school, at a university. Who'd have thought he was a bloody? He wouldn't have thought. And he actually turned around to the doctor and said, "Even I know that 2 + 2 is 5, doctor. You know, I mean, I can count potatoes just as fast as you can count potatoes, you know, or whatever." But I could go with Resurrection because everybody knows
Okay.
that's a very, very strong Doctor,
Yeah.
darling Doctor Who
Yeah,
episode.
it is.
I'm going to
Yeah.
go with Frontios. Now, it's a
Okay.
very unusual one for me to choose. I could have gone with the Omega story. I could have gone with the Pudding Lane, the Fire of London, you know, all of
Yeah.
that sort of stuff, right? But I'm
Yeah.
going to go with Frontios because I like the idea that the TARDIS was drawn into the planet. It was
Yeah.
split up. There was only the stupid coat hanger left on the planet. All of this sort of stuff. I like the idea that humanity had got to a planet and they were so scarred and so lack of resources that even making batteries was difficult to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the idea that there are these troglodyte type things living under the ground. They're like snails burrowing and all of this sort of stuff. I like
Good
that
stuff,
idea.
yeah.
So there were a lot of things that I liked about Frontios. The music really is great in that particular episode as well. So just because it's a story that that divides so many people, and by the way, they're talking about Frontios on the latest box set as being the one with the most problems with AI, because at one point there's a bloke with glasses on, and then the next moment he hasn't got glasses on, right? But apparently that's on the DVD release as well. So, you know, it can't be AI that's done that. But most people don't talk about Frontios and they don't think of it as being a particularly great story. But I think that I need to move away from the obvious. Babes of Andravani, Resurrection of the Daleks.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to go with the story that I think doesn't get enough attention.
Yeah.
I think people should look at that story again now that they've got their new season 21 box set.
Yeah.
I think that's a good, if anybody's watching this, it's a good advertisement to say, don't bypass that episode. Go and watch it. You might find you'll enjoy it. And I'll go with that and shut up. There you go.
Right.
You fell asleep then, didn't you?
No, I think that's a good shout out. I'm really quite pleased that you've chosen something that's not obvious. I like that. I suppose mine are, I don't know if mine are obvious, but obviously I think I said that. The Visitation I would have chosen because it's historical. It's because it leads to, I like the ending, the fact the Great Fire of London.
Like I said, Pudding Lane.
Yeah, Pudding Lane. Yeah, and that being the play, because in 1665,
even though they say it never started in Pudding Lane. Now it was on the street opposite.
Yeah, I love that story, and also incidentally, it's got Michael Robbins in it
from On the Buses.
Yes, and apparently. It's interesting what people say about him, but that's I won't go into that. But the extras I've heard about him is quite interesting. Anyhow, I think the story I'm choosing is, again, you haven't mentioned it, and maybe it's not obvious, but I like it for a few reasons. It's Kinder, 1982. Kinder is one where Janet Fielding as Tegan. Is absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. Is that your choice? Is that your choice?
I'm going to choose Kinder. I want to choose.
Do you know? I thought you were going to go with Earthshock.
No, I was tempted.
You see, it's just another story that's talked about a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought Kinder is something I really there's something I like about Kinder, but yeah, Earthshock is the obvious one I would choose, and possibly, as I said, the Visitation. When I was thinking, but I didn't want to go for obvious ones, so I've gone for Kinder.
I thought I'd left the door open for Earthshock because it's the one I didn't mention.
I mean, Earthshock it's an historical episode in terms of Doctor Who, because the way the credits roll at the end.
And but you know what? Every time somebody mentions Earthshock, the underlying story, the underlying last picture of the credits going up with no music is
Yeah.
obviously there with his mathematical scar
Yeah.
broken up, right? But I tell you what, every time people mention Earthshock, the image that comes to mind for me is the Cyberman trapped in the door.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's frozen there with its hands
Yeah.
going in, stuck in
Yeah.
the door, going, I can't do anything. I'm stuck here, right? I'm
Yeah.
dead, right? Because
Yeah.
he turned matter into
Yeah.
hard matter again, and that was it. It was trapped
Yeah.
there, and it stuck dead instantly. I
Yeah.
thought, wow, what an image that is. That's brilliant.
I think Earthshock is a story that is always mentioned, like with Genesis of the
Wow.
Daleks.
Beryl Reid is probably the bad
Yeah.
boy of it all,
But
maybe.
I thought I'd look at the reasons why I like Kinder 1982. I think, as I say, it's Janet Fielding's performance as Tegan, and they do a follow up to it as well, which I don't think is quite good. It's good. It's Snake Dance, but Kinder is it's a story where Janet Fielding is taken over by this entity, the Mara.
Yeah.
This story is also now. The writer of this story was a Buddhist, and so he decided it isn't all evident, but it's got a lot of Buddhist ideas in here about self and the way it's portrayed. But it's a story where you've got these colonists who are like sort of stereotype kind of British colonists of the empire kind of thing in the Victorian sort of era. And then you've got these natives. And so you've got this colonial kind of story going on. And I like it because it's a different kind of story. And as I say, Janet Fielding just excels, and she's we've got the worst companion with Turlough, but we've also got, I think, one of Doctor Who's great companions with Sarah Jane. She's up there with Sarah Jane, in my opinion, which might be controversial, but Tegan. I love Tegan. She just adds so much. She's such a great character. She's got balls, and she'll stand up to the Doctor. She won't put up with any nonsense, and it's good. I think what I like about it is she's actually good for the Doctor. He didn't realize it straight away. He doesn't. He just sees her as this bossy companion, and she is good for him. Definitely.
It was sort of like Dr. Livingston type episode, Kinder.
Yeah, it's a strange, but it's good. It's got a lot going on, and it's the way it's produced. And you've got, as I say, these natives, and you've got this woman dealing in sort of with the Mara.
So do you think? So you think Kinder's better and a stronger episode than Snake Dance? Then
yes, Snake Dance. It doesn't quite work as well for me. This one, it just has.
Is that because you know the threat? Is that why? Do you think?
Maybe that is. Maybe it is. But I like the story. I like the elements. It's almost laughing at the colonists, really, the colonial people, because they're so stupid in many ways. They really are. And it works well. It's a different episode. It's not everybody's taste, I don't think, and everybody would think of it as a Peter Davison episode, because I agree so much with you about Peter Davison. I think he's got a lot of great stories, are very enjoyable. They may not be always the highest we see, but they're not the lowest. It's a good, really good story.
Even I nearly had a tear come to my eye when the sonic screwdriver got blown up, and he goes, "I think I've lost a friend."
Yeah, and the thing is,
I
don't understand why people didn't get into Peter Davison straight away. I found him straight away. I enjoyed him. He was the Doctor. He did, you know. And in a way, I think it's a shame he didn't have longer. But he said Patrick Troughton had told him, "You do 3 seasons."
Well, that's a famous tale, isn't it? He said,
"Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, you come in for 3 years, you go out. Otherwise, you might get.
I'd like to have seen another one. It would have been nice, but
I don't know. I don't know. I think that Patrick Troughton probably did say something along those lines to him. But Peter Davison's his own mind. He didn't have to. And I don't think that he would have thought that he would have been typecast because he was doing Sink or Swim and he was doing Very Peculiar Practice.
I think it was good they got him as an actor.
I think he got disillusioned with the fact that the budgets were always low. The stories were coming in late, and it was frustrating him with trying to get the stories in on time for him to act.
Yeah, because as I've stated sort of earlier on, now things are changing in Doctor Who. It's the time, when it's on, the budget is being squeezed. And there's still that feeling.
Patrick Troughton actually turned around and said he was having a good time. But the problem was it was on for, as you said, 3/4 of the year, that there was no time for him to have a holiday.
That's right, yeah.
At some point, you've got to just turn around and say, I need to act in other parts.
That's right.
And really, to be quite honest, I do have a family life.
Yeah, exactly. I think
I've got to go.
Yeah.
Peter Davison didn't have that headache. His amount of episodes were of a lower mark. So, it wasn't that. It was, I think he was just frustrated with the whole production by the time he got to his 3rd year.
So, we're going to Colin Baker now. So,
right.
What are your thoughts about what happened to Colin Baker? And in retrospect, looking back, how do you feel about it? Has your opinions changed a bit, or what? I certainly, my opinion has changed on Colin Baker.
Going past the twin dilemma, you actually had a very exciting following year. I thought it was quite good. I mean, you've got you've got a Cyberman story to start off with, which I thought was actually quite good. You've got a Dalek story to end on, which is quite violent and annoying. And the thing that annoyed me about that really was Alexi Sale. That's one, but there was also that woman that killed off a sort of like a boss, wasn't it? They were morticians. And she went and killed him. In the end, and I thought she was annoying all the way through it. I like the interesting idea of the Doctor's gravestone being there with a picture of his head, and it was actually his physical head of how he looked now. Which must have been quite imposing for anybody to come across your own gravestone, but then to actually have it carved as your own head on it as well must have been quite good.
What do you think about the format of the stories now, which they changed?
Well, some people were saying that the test was Resurrection of the Dalek, but actually that was only done as 2 episodes where they joined 2 episodes together to make it into a 2-parter. It was because of the Winter Olympics. It's just that the figures were so high, they decided to try a format change for Colin Baker's first season. It didn't work for me. I liked them in 25-minute episodes. Always did, always will, and I still think that even new Doctor Who would benefit for going back to a 25-minute format.
I like the cliffhangers. I love the cliffhangers.
My personal reason.
Do you think Twin Dilemma really did damage him? I do. I think it was damaging to him,
because you've got one story and then you can't correct anybody's opinion of it for about a good 6, 7, 8, 9 months.
No
matter how you look at it. I mean, Peter Davison was dogged by that. Tom Baker ended. Peter Davison started, and there was a hiatus before his season started.
Yes,
we have to
it was
remember
the wrong
that.
thing to do.
And the thing is, we had the Doctor change into another Doctor mid-season before. It wasn't unusual, but it was unusual to anybody that couldn't get their mind back to 1966. You see what I mean? You got to understand that Patrick Troughton didn't start his season at the beginning of a new season. He started 3 or 4 episodes, 3 or 4 stories in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. The 10th Planet is not the end of a season. It's very early on in a season that is then ended with Patrick Troughton. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not. But the problem is the story was so badly written, and the Doctor was so out of character that even I know that the Doctor, no matter how scatty he is not going to try and kill someone. Doesn't matter. I have the same problem with Superman in a Superman film where he goes and kills. He goes and he kills, people from Krypton in the film. Superman does not kill.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So when you do something so out of character that something like that happens, you've taken me out of the equation. I can't get over that. So then you've made it, and then you've taken so long before you're back for you to correct it that I've got an opinion of you that's going to stick with me for quite some time. And the stories, although strong, and I do say that it's much better than Trial of a Time Lord, the following season, that it took me a long time for me to get to the end of that season and go, oh, he ain't that bad.
Do you think Trial of the Time Lord was a total miscalculation?
Yeah. All that
almost, again, if you're a conspiracy, you could say it was almost deliberate. It just didn't work.
I couldn't get over the fact that we had the person who does the Bisto gravy adverts as portraying over the top of this court, and the Valeyard was the bloke I kept seeing in Tales of the Unexpected. All of this, and he was also in Coronation Street a couple of years before. No, Emmerdale. He was in Emmerdale for a couple of years. So, it was one of those things where Colin Baker just had so bitty a time you couldn't get any traction. That's what that winds me up, right? And it's why it's very difficult for me to choose a good episode for Colin Baker. But it must be the one that's the satire on live reality TV.
Vengeance on Varos.
Vengeance on Varos. I was just about to get to the title of it, because it even had Connery's son in it, right? And he wasn't that bad. You've got a Doctor that did look like he was going to die at some point, because you see the ending of the very first 2-part story, the 2 episodes where he's crawling through the desert and he thinks he's going to die, and it's actually quite good. But I like the idea that I want you to see me being tortured, and that brings up the ratings.
That's right.
Is a very, very interesting concept. And I keep thinking to myself, I wonder if Keir Starmer would still want to be Prime Minister if we voted people in with that voting system. Please vote for me. Oh, I'm going to die. It's all right. I survived it. It's all right. Because I think we'd get through quite a few prime ministers. You know what I mean? If we actually had that rating. So I'm going to go with that one. It's probably an obvious one.
Yeah,
some people might have chosen Attack of the Cybermen because
you haven't got as many to work on, I don't think. But that's always one that is always picked. I would have picked that, but I'll pick. I I'll pick Attack of the Cybermen.
I think you've got to, haven't you? I think you've got to choose, because I don't think you can go with the Mara.
No, not the Rani ones. Are
the Rani, the Rani. Sorry.
The
only redeeming thing about that is I do like the idea that you go over a landmine, you turn into a tree. But even I can see that this is a bloke in a tree when you try and grab your arm around it. You know what I mean? I mean, that was bloody awful.
I think as well, Attack of the Cybermen, it brings back Lytton as a mercenary character, so that's quite interesting that they brought another character back. So that's one I'll choose. There isn't, unfortunately, much with Colin Baker that you can choose, because the Trial of the Time Lord is a disaster.
Yeah,
it's a total disaster. So we get on to the last one. Now you're thinking, thank God we've got the Sylvester McCoy as the Seventh Doctor. So give me your opinion, what you think about Sylvester McCoy.
A baptism of fire, really, for him, because it's one of those ones where I actually struggle to find the first season of him as anything joyous at all. You know, obviously Dragonfire, I think, is the one that most people will go to as a only redeemable type of story. It's where Ace, I think, comes from, isn't it?
Ace's debut story.
You know, everybody, I think, also agrees that it's the final 2 seasons where you see any light at the end of the tunnel. You know, you've got obviously Silver Nemesis, and you've got was it Resurrection of the Daleks? Is it
Remembrance
of the Daleks?
Remembrance of the Daleks.
But for me, you only get to the good stuff in the very final season. I must admit, I do like. I mean, Battlefield is not particularly great, but it actually does. It's not that bad because of the Merlin element in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't like his. I didn't really go for his outfit too much. It took a long time for me to get used to that. I didn't like his spoon playing and his constant, you know, dancing about type thing. So it was only when he started to be that sort of mischievous type Patrick Troughton type approach, you know, with the fiddling about with things behind things, when he sort of like showing that he was a bumbling buffoon when actually he was actually playing a strategy game. Do you know what I mean? And that's what redeemed it for me towards the end. I'm probably going to go, and I can't, you see, this is the thing. I didn't prepare myself because I can't remember. I mean, I do remember, and I'll kick myself for not thinking of stories.
I think.
But Ghostlight obviously is one that I could choose, but I'm actually going to go with the other one, the one that's set in the wartime with the
Curse of Fenric.
Curse of Fenric. There you are.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Curse of Fenric as my favorite Sylvester McCoy story.
That's right. I think
because I know that you like you can talk about Ghostlight, but Curse of Fenric had that element of it for me.
I liked Curse of Fenric a lot. I think it's a good one. It's a wartime one as well.
That's it. It was bit. It's because it's a wartime
really
one. It's a bit vampire-ish.
Yeah,
which I like.
And Ace is good in it. There's a really good important.
She's got that thing about this being part of her past, or a family member of her past.
And you remember the scene where the Doctor has to like sort of make total despair, where it's up against this enemy, this other Time Lord, isn't it? And she has to lose faith in the Doctor.
Yes.
And it's a brilliant scene. It's really very emotional, because you love their relationship so
Of course,
much.
you got a cliffhanger as well where he's got he's got green eyes and he says Time Lord.
Yeah, you've
or
got, and
something
that's
like
just
that.
wonderful stuff.
And you're just going, oh, this is actually all right. This
is great stuff, and therefore the fact that it was the last series, it's heartbreaking because you think, oh, they already had so much more that prepared to write, the writers and that, and it's just so sad that it ended with survival. But yeah, I suppose so. The stories I'll talk about, yeah, Ghostlight is good. The problem with Ghostlight is that they recorded quite a lot of it, and they had to edit it down, and some of the footage is totally gone. It was destroyed, and I'd love to have seen more of the footage because I think the story is one of those stories which is quite difficult to understand, and I think that's because it was short and there's a lot missing. It doesn't make sense yet. Even in that not making sense, it's a great story. It's got this wonderful sort of 19th century period piece aspect to it.
Yeah.
But it's got an unsettling feel about it. It's very unsettling, is Ghostlight. And about evolution. It's got lots of stuff going on. And the Doctor and Ace, again, they're thrown into this situation. And of course, the storyline is that this is another story where Ace is going back with a connection of where she was brought up as well, in this house. You've got all that stuff going on. The Doctor, the Doctor is now, as a character, we begin to see a dark side. Is he manipulating everything? Is there something greater going on here? And this is the kind of direction it was going in, but then it was stopped.
Yeah.
But so if I have to choose a Sylvester McCoy episode, I have mentioned I still choose Curse of Fenric. I know we're both the same. We both agree on the same because it is so good. I love.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, the 25th anniversary with Silver Nemesis and Remembrance of the Daleks is still a better, stronger season.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Than the. I mean, it couldn't get worse than the previous season, could it?
The Ken Dodd episode.
I mean, the trouble is how many times can you go back to the same era as Totter's Lane and all of this sort of stuff when it comes to Remembrance of the Daleks? And Silver Nemesis has got too many probably jovial moments in it.
Yeah.
Because it starts off really good with this sort of like witch that actually kills everybody around her and poisons them and all of this sort of stuff.
Are there like two skinheads? It's kind of spoiled. The neo-Nazi bit. It has got my favourite Nazi in it, Anton Differin, who's the great actor. I mean, look at that. We got Anton Differin.
I like the idea of Ace using a catapult with coins to kill the Cybermen.
Good stuff in it, but it is. I think I agree with you. It's spoiled by being too silly in places.
Because you've got him plodding around going, "Oh, my lady, I'm going to protect you with my bow and arrow and all of this sort of stuff," right? And they're wandering around the village and all of this sort of stuff going, "Oh, hasn't everything sort of like changed in this in the future and all of this sort of stuff?" And I'm just going, give it a break, will you?
Yeah.
Right? You've traveled. You don't think everything's going to be like the 15th century, do you, or something, right? I mean, of course it bloody well is, right?
No.
I mean, if she'd have seen a plane up in the sky, I'm pretty sure she'd have said, "I think I'll go back." I don't think I like this future very much. You know what I mean? I'm surprised a plane didn't fly overhead with the amount of planes that come out of Heathrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I was looking at it.
Yeah.
It took me out of the whole
Yeah, it's
The
spoiled
whole
it.
the whole idea of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
comet coming out of the sky and
yeah,
him putting the arrow together with
yeah,
and all of this and making it whole again and it having that living metal and all of that took
yeah.
the whole thing away.
It did. It's a shame, but anyhow. Okay, I'm now. I better get through some comments. We'll finish these comments off. We've
Well,
got Tony saying,
I will say this. I do want to talk about what I was going to talk about, but
yeah,
yes, please read them out
yeah,
because
the invasion for Troughton. Yeah, it's a good story. The invasion. Right, chaps, enjoy your evening of time travel. I am off. Bye, Jamie. You'll have gone long
it had
time
gone
ago.
long ago. Yeah.
Good night, Jamie. And then Rocket Bunny says, War Machines is a good choice, Ian. One of my favorites. It's a tough choice with an invasion. Honorable mention go to the Romans and the Reign of Terror. Oh, yeah. Good
I'm
stuff.
surprised actually many people talk about the Reign of Terror.
Yeah.
Because of the missing episodes.
That's right. I think that's the thing. Anyhow, who knows? Somebody might be talking about it eventually.
Yeah, you never
on
know.
this channel. Rocket Bunny says Patrick Troughton has so many good ones. Favorites for me are the Invasion, which is Cybermen 2 of the Cybermen, the Web of Fear. I have a soft spot for the lesser talked about faceless ones. Yeah, look, faceless ones. That is
the faceless is the faceless ones with Jamie gone. They changed the character, changed the actor for the film.
No, that's
that's the Mind Robber. That's the Mind Robber, isn't it?
Which is
I remember the fact. Sorry,
surreal,
I remember.
It's a very surreal episode, the Mind Robber.
It's weird because the whole studio's white.
Right. And then we've got Tony saying Enemy of the World is as good as it shows. Troughton acting schools to full effect. Yeah. Playing both the Doctor and the Australian dictator. That's true. And
I always thought of him as being like from Cuba or something.
And it's one that we actually found. It was one of those found complete episodes in what about 2012?
I did honestly think though that he was playing a Cuban dictator, not an Australian dictator. But it is. I think it is an Australian. But it's almost like he was playing some sort of Cuban dictator. I thought it was, like drug plantel and all this sort of stuff.
Rocket Bunny says another great choice, Tony, and then. Was fantastic. They found most of the missing episodes.
That one from Web of, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still. I think we got a bit excited about possibilities, but I don't want to go into too much excitement factor. I was just pleased to get 2 Dalek episodes back. Really, when it and then Tony says. Found at the same time as Web of Fear, I think. Yeah, there's still the one Web of Fear episode missing. Unfortunately,
like I said, it was a huge block of episodes found. We all thought that one episode was going to be just some bargaining piece. And it's still now not there, and it's such a shame. So,
I think we'll get it in future.
I think that's one episode that we will get back at some point. So,
And then Tony says, rewatched Inferno this week. Still holds up as an excellent adult sci-fi concept. My favorite Pertwee story. Very closely followed by the demons. Yeah, I'd like to have talked about the demons more, but I would, because I love the demons. The Unit family all getting good parts.
Well, I'll tell you what the thing I like about the demons. It does look like it could have been like a PG Hammer.
It could, yeah. I think that's true. That's how
I like the idea that there's this black sort of like dust on the floor, and when you threw it, that was a force field or something which incinerated you as soon as you went through it. They even used that in a Stephen King film, a Stephen King TV series where the village is encased in a like a bubble, and it's because of aliens, right? So. It's the same sort of like similar thing with that.
Yeah.
So,
I
like the idea of Hobbs Hill and all of this.
We could talk loads about that episode. It's just one of those things that you could talk about. And And then Rocket Bunny, John Pertwee, the Downs is all the way for me. Classic unit team. The Master with a great location. So many others to mention. Frontier in Space, my second favourite. Inferno, great choice. Brilliant, Rocket Bunny. And we got more in. Green Death brings a tear to the eye at the end. I know it does for me. Also, really like the special edition Day of the Daleks, yeah, with better voices, better editing to show more Daleks than the three. Love it, yeah.
Yeah.
I love.
Did you like those? Did you like those sort of like jellied monsters though?
They were jelly monsters.
You know what I mean? You got the Ogrons, you've got
right.
the Daleks, and then you've got these weird, suddenly appearing aliens, which seem like they need acne cream or something all over them. You know, they're sort of like shivering along, walking along, like sort of like this.
I love that.
Oh, you know what I mean? I like the idea that he was going, me and Boney used to have a conversation. You know, the Doctor's going inside that sort of...
That's another trait of the Doctor. He always loves referring to all these past people he's met.
Yeah, Boney.
It's really good. And then we've got Tony saying, in the story, I enjoy the plot of the invasion of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
The whole returning to a better past plot. Yeah, that's very good. You just need to overlook the dinosaur effects. Mind of Evil is one I really enjoy too. Yeah, the dinosaur effects, I don't mind. You've got to take them as they were. And then Rocket Bunny, let's face it, most Pertwee stories are classics. Massive.
What's that one that's not very well received though? Is it the Time Monster?
Oh yes. I think I think you're right. I think that one is not. There is one that is pretty awful.
It's a master story. It's got that horrible white effect inside the house where it's sort of like it's so bright and light you can't see.
I think actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because that is perhaps one of the worst stories. Yeah,
I would probably have said that.
Yeah, of Pertwee's. With its espionage plot alongside the Master creating havoc as usual. Well, of course, that's his job. And then Rocket Bunny Robot, he's a little erratic, but come on. If you show anyone Ark in space and then tell me it's just his second story, just shows how Tom is just perfect for the role. I agree. Ark in space. I mean, I could have talked about that. Yeah. I mean,
for so many years, that picture of that sort of like ant-like creature was iconic for years, as iconic as the Zygons ever were. Right, you had all it had its arms with its legs sort of like sticking out like this with that ant sort of like head, and even I turned around and went, that looks such a great alien.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For years and years and years.
And I love it the way the Doctor is celebrating how good humans are, how he loves humans, because he said only the humans could do this. You know, they're off out into space, and it is a wonderful story.
Most people talk about that season's weakest story, I think, as being Attack of the Cybermen, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that one. I know
because it's all about the Doctor sort of like carrying a great big massive explosion down into the center of the planet to blow it up.
I like it. I think that is more because it was one I watched a lot.
Isn't it also the first mention of the glitter gun or something?
Yeah,
right?
But yeah. Here he is. Yeah, Michael Wisher. That's it. The Davros.
I'm not particularly great with names, I have to say.
Talons of Weng Chang and Horror of Fang Rock are a couple of Tom Baker stories I really enjoy. Good atmospheric period settings, almost like Hammer Gothic stories. You said it. I think that was the aim of the producer.
Closest thing I thought for Tom Baker doing Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Which he did do a couple of years, I think, after he left.
Yeah.
Although I always remember the Tom Baker going to a children's program called The Book Tower.
Yeah.
When he left.
Yeah.
He headed a sort of like Jackanory type ITV thing for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Terry Malloy played him for Resurrection for the rest of the classic era.
yeah, he did. Yeah,
He also plays him in Big Finish. The Davros origin story is a 4-story masterpiece. Malloy's acting is simply amazing.
and I'll tell you what, that Big Finish thing is so much better than bloody Richard.
Yeah,
Coming up with that story of him having legs and all of this sort of
yeah.
stuff. All of this shit.
Rocket Bunny says favorite Tom Baker stories for me is Genesis, hands down, Ark in Space, Pyramids of Mars, Talons of Weng Chang, Robots of Death, Deadly Assassin, all
There's so many, I
masterpieces.
think.
Yeah, Deadly Assassin, wonderful. The Doctor Who influence for Alien is unquestionably Ark in Space. A queen implants its young in human bodies
Yeah,
that then burst out and consume their bodies. Not bad for kids' TV. You spot on there. Yeah. Apart from the obvious 5 Doctors, I enjoy Black Orchid. Yeah, which is a murder mystery. It is. And there's no sci-fi elements apart from the Doctor and the TARDIS. That's right, yeah. There's 2-part of that one. Rocket Boy says, favourite Davison story for me is Caves of Androzani, written by Bob Holmes. Very dark, modern direction from Graham Harper. Yeah, great, good director.
Rocket Bunny is spot on because, I mean, everybody loves Caves of. I don't know of anybody who doesn't like Caves of.
It is, yeah.
I think the hardest thing to do a show sort of like this one is choosing something beyond the norm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's great because I like to hear what Rocket Bunny says.
Yeah.
Right. And what everybody else says as well.
And as he says, there's great performances from Peter Davison and Nicola in his era. It's one of the stories. It's always mentioned. Second favorite is Earthshock, of course, yeah, which is one I remember watching at the time. Updated Sidemen, Death of Adric, haunting soundtrack. I used to listen to on the first BBC radiophonic CD, yeah. Right. Original soundtrack CD, yeah. I'm going to upset the apple cart now. Here we are, Rocket Bunny. I think Frontiers is an absolute rubbish. Sorry, Del. Its direction is awful, the soundtrack is plodding, and the acting is embarrassingly bad. Sorry. There you are.
Everybody's got their own opinion. Yeah. From my point of view, I don't think it's bad at all.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is plodding. No, I actually think that's but then again, music, you see, is such a personal taste. Yeah. I mean, I really, 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 really love the music in Mordrin Undead.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely fantastic, Mordrin Undead. Frontios has got this sort of like distinct style, which is probably why I like it. I like the idea that you've got 2 factions and you're stuck on a planet at the far end, and basically you've got so many little bits that you're scavenging even for batteries and power. I think I think that's good. When it comes to the direction, it could be a bit plodded. I'll agree with that, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have its interesting good points.
Yeah,
but he puts it's embarrassingly bad. I wouldn't use the word embarrassingly. I would say it's got bad moments. But that's everybody. That's just a personal opinion, isn't it?
I'll be back in a minute. Okay, sorry.
Well, I've got nothing else to talk. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll talk about the thing that I was going to talk about then. Right. Okay. So before we came on, right, last week, Ian came along and he said, what should we do about the Doctor stuff? And I said, well, I could pick a personal story that probably changed my life in regards to Doctor Who, and I could talk about it a bit, right? I could go into quite a bit of detail on it. So I chose, believe it or not, if you haven't guessed by my name in there, it's got Delboy 3K1 Entropy, right? I chose Logopolis. And I sort of like harped upon it a little bit at the very beginning, because I was saying that when Tom Baker's final season was coming on, and Peter Davison's season was coming in, was the time where I was turning into a teenager. And so there are certain things that sort of like stick in your mind. Now, later on, I learned that Tom Baker's last season is all about endings. It's all about things coming to an end, decay, and in other words, entropy. And Logopolis uses the word entropy an awful lot. In fact, the whole of the first episode intrigues me an awful lot, because you can pick a hole in Doctor Who for every story. It doesn't matter what you got. You can pick a story, I think, in anyone, right? First of all, the opening scene shows a police officer being dragged inside a police box, right? Why is it that this policeman can't overpower the master? I don't know. We don't know it's the master at this point, but we must think, Christ, whoever's inside this outside police box, N.R. strong, because he can pull a whole policeman inside it, and then you see the Doctor pacing around a part of the TARDIS I'd never really seen before, which was sort of gothic and sort of had ivy leaves sort of like coming down, and he starts talking about the second law of thermodynamics, and then starts saying that entropy increases, and this is where we start thinking about decay and endings. And of course, we know at the end of this story that the ending is also about the Doctor's own ending. But it had some absolute classic lines in this first story that I used to be able to recite, from right out the bat. He said things like, the more you put things together, the more things fall apart. And that's the essence of the second law of thermodynamics. And I've never heard of a truer line spoken. And I used to think, wow, he said that so quick. And I just went, I love that line. I'm going to have to remember it. And I've sort of like semi-remembered it ever since on that one. And then, of course, Adric starts talking about Gallifrey. He says, oh, we're going to Gallifrey. And he goes, no, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I've got a place in mind. I'm going to take you to a place that I really sort of like consider to be my home of homes. They call it Earth. And then, then we start seeing Tegan and of course, Auntie Vanessa. Right? This is the firsts that we get to see of things. Auntie Vanessa is stupid, right? They get a flat tire, right, along this this bypass thing, right? And they're trying to change a tire, right? And Auntie Vanessa says, don't you think you ought to put the jack underneath the car before you start taking the wheels off? The first thing my dad told me about changing a wheel was you loosen the nuts while the tire is still touched to the ground, and then you jack the car up. Because if otherwise, the wheel will keep spinning around, won't it? So actually, Auntie Vanessa, you're a bloody idiot. Right? Even I knew this. I was screaming at her. I said, even I know that's wrong. What the hell's going on with this? But there were so many things in it. So there's all that technical things that were coming into it. And then the Doctor starts talking about block transfer computation. And all of a sudden I'm going, what the hell's that? Block transfer computation. And then we've got Adric on the top of a TARDIS. And they're saying, I'm going to measure it in all dimensions. I'm going, what do you mean all dimensions? I only know X, Y, and Z planes. What the hell are you? Oh, yeah, then there's the time dimension. There's this dimension. Of course, it's blowing all my mind, all this, because I'm just a teenager and I'm just seeing this and I'm just going, wow, this is really good, all of this. And for the first time, also, this story talks about the cloister bell. I'd never known what a cloister bell was. For the first time, we're talking about the cloister bell, and I'm going, what's a cloister bell? I had to even later on, I had to look up and say, what the hell's a cloister? I don't even know what that is. Right? So there's all of this going on. I loved also the idea that the Doctor tries to put the TARDIS over the top of a police box. And when he actually then he actually turns around and says, actually, the TARDIS and me are getting a little bit better at doing these small hops. And he gets it virtually on top of it. and the bike falls over, which just goes to show that the TARDIS is getting a bit fat, right? Because if it had got it exactly right, the bike would have still been there. But the real thing that caught my interest was as they were over the top of a police box, it actually was another TARDIS. As they kept going in and in and in this TARDIS, it was getting darker and the sound was all echoey and all of this, like they were underwater. And this is just the very first episode. This is the very first episode. The Doctor is just playing at the role at the moment and just playing around. He's just playing around. He gets more solemn as the story goes on in Legopolis. But the one thing I never understood is how can Adric pick the TARDIS lock with a lock pick? Because if it was another TARDIS that was in there and they kept going in and in and in, that means that he was picking the lock of a TARDIS with a lock pick. I don't see how you could do that, because if anybody, that means that anybody with a lockpick could have got into a TARDIS all them other years ago. So there are things that just don't make sense in it. But the most interesting figure and the one that still has the most speculation for me is the Watcher.
Yeah.
There's this white guy, totally sort of like embryoed, like a mummy. Even the Doctor goes and talks to him. And when he comes back and he says, I think I've seen the future. I'm prepared for everything that's going to be going on. All of that sort of stuff. And even Adric goes and talks to him. In fact, at one point, the Watcher controls the TARDIS, takes it out of space and time at one point, and brings it back in. So it must have been some Time Lord or something. But anyway, Legopolis is all about decay, endings, and that's why entropy is there and why it's there. And it was the end of the Doctor. So Legopolis has something very special in my mind, which went into Castrovalva, but not quite as strong as Legopolis ever did. It had this sense of endings, and I love the score to it as well. The music in Legopolis is really good. Some people question and turn around and say, yeah, but what a crappy ending for the Doctor. He just fell off the top of the Pharos projects. I think that's what it was called, the Pharos project, if I remember rightly. Yeah. Fell off the top of the dish. I have a look at I say it like this. If you're going to blow up the universe, right, what better place to do it is from a planet that nobody's ever heard of a satellite dish that no bugger would actually know what you're talking about, right? You're not going to do it from a well-known planet or something in the universe, because you're going to go there and stop everything from happening. So there's one thing. The second thing is the Doctor has always changed for some reason. Now, the very first Doctor died because basically he says, my old body's sort of like coming to an end. I'm so tired, and he sort of regenerated. Yeah. He was forced to change in the second one, right? You know, where Patrick Troughton had to change into John Pertwee. So really, the only times that the Doctor has changed because of anything really was John Pertwee and Tom Baker. John Pertwee was the metabolist crystal blowing up all his cells, and Tom Baker was falling from a great height. So really, it was only the second time we saw the Doctor in a sort of dilemma. And to be quite honest, I don't think I could have held on. And if I did fall from that height, I would have died. You see what I mean? It just proves that the Doctor was sort of like fallible. You know, if a laser had hit him or whatever it was, he could have died. He wasn't that sort of indestructible type of character, which gave that sort of feeling of going even better. But I'll tell you what, the thing that I really, really loved, it was the first time that all of his memories came back. They showed all of his enemies.
That's right, yeah.
You know, they did this in Caves of Androzani, which was probably even hit even harder, probably because of the short space of time. But with Tom Baker, you saw all of these faces, all from the past, and they were all going, Doctor, 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 character and all of this sort of stuff. And then, you know, he had that immortal line, "It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for." And I think that that's a really nice sentimental line to go. So that's the end of my sort of like talking a little bit about Logopolis. It is not the strongest story, but it's amazing how two regenerative stories of a teenager stick out. So Caves of Androzani and Logopolis. And both of them, I think, are very, very strong stories.
I think Logopolis has a great sense of foreboding throughout.
That's it. It's entropy.
And that is there's nothing quite like it, is there?
Well, like I said, did you know without sort of like finding out later on that the whole of that season is about endings, decay?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the E-Space trilogy, you've got the Keeper of Traken, Logopolis, and Castrovalva is 3 parts. It's actually a 3-part story.
Yes, you're right.
But most people just think of it as Logopolis and Castrovalva, right? A 2-parter, right? 2 stories stitched together. But actually, Keeper of Traken is part of that trilogy.
Yeah.
Like the E-Space is a trilogy and everything else. But it's all about endings, decay, things falling apart, etc., etc. And it was the final season of Tom Baker, which I think is absolutely a fantastic theme to go along with it. But and I picked up upon it only because when Logopolis came along and I was a teen and I was just approaching my teens, that he kept mentioning thermodynamics, entropy, all of this sort of stuff. He was mentioning it so many times in the first episode that I just worked it out. Everything's about endings. Everything is about endings.
Yeah.
And so it still holds something special for me today.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
So that's the reason why I was going to talk about it for at length today, but suddenly changed the bloody rules, didn't they? Before we were about to start.
No, I wanted you to talk about it. You could have talked about it anytime you want. And I think it's an interesting choice because it's not obvious, and I like that. It's not an obvious choice because I'm sure not everybody would choose Logopolis, and I like that. I think you've done well to choose that one, and what you say is so true. It's so true. So I better get through these last comments. Let's have a look.
You buggered off and put in, and then left up for everybody to watch for around about 10 minutes. Him turning around and dissing my episode of Frontios. So thanks very much.
He says Kindon and that rubber snake. Thank God for updated FXS. All is I'll say. Agree that Janet Fielding's performance.
Now, why couldn't have that been left up while you buggered off for about 10? right? And then just saying, Dale, you're all wrong about Frontios, and have that up there for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Richard Todd's performance is so bizarre. It's though, don't you think? I think it is a bit bizarre, but that adds to, I think, this story in a way. It is quite a bizarre story, and it's. I find it fascinating. Rocket Boy Peter did say that if he would have known that his 3rd season was as good as it was, then he would have stayed for another season.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just a nice story to turn around and say that Patrick Troughton would have said that 3 seasons was enough and all of that. I've got no qualms in saying that Patrick Troughton probably did say that, but you got to remember there's a good 10 or so 15 years between those two.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, actors don't think that way anymore. They would have been typecast probably at the end of the 60s. Being in a particular role if they do it for too long. Didn't stop John Pertwee doing anything. No, he was Wurzel. He was in Who Done It. He was in, you know what I mean? It's
and then Tony says, not sure if I have a favorite Colin Baker story. Perhaps Mark of the Rani for its industrial revolution setting. Yeah, that is an interesting idea.
Yeah, I didn't choose the Rani story because
Yeah.
I could never forget that rubber tree with its arm coming around. I just
Rocket Bunny. With Colin, I think I'd go for Revelation of the Daleks. Graham's moody direction, Malloy's amazing performance as Davros, and the dark comedy in the script are all great. Yeah, yeah. And then Tony says, McCoy's stories for me would be Remembrance of the Daleks and Battlefield, with the Brigadier saving the day by disposing of the destroyer creature with his trusty revolver and some silver bullets. Yeah, it was good to see the Brigadier back, I must admit, in that episode.
yeah.
And then Rocket Bunny. Then finally with McCoy, I would go with Remembrance of the Daleks. After the dross of season 24, I remember jumping up and down after the first episode, so happy that the Doctor was properly back. I get what you mean after the first lot of episodes.
Yeah, like I said, remembrance is. I'm not saying it's an obvious choice. It's just that there is a cut above, but it's just that how many times are we going to the bloody school and the Totters Lane and the 60s background?
I think if you endured, Paradise Towers and all this,
Christ
stuff, it just made you think, God, this is so much better. You was desperate for something good to come.
Richard Bryars. I mean, my God,
I can't believe actually there wasn't more quality control on that first series of episodes. I mean, and when I see Ken Dodd, I think of Ken Dodd. I think, oh my Gideon, oh, what's Ken Dodd doing in this? Oh,
you just know that Richard Bryars can do so much better.
But Richard Bryars, he's a good actor.
Yeah,
he's a good actor. Richard Bryars.
For God's sake, he was. I think he's in Henry V. Kenneth Branagh's first directed film. Isn't he? Doing Shakespearean stuff. Full well.
And what's he doing in that role?
But you're only as good as what you're given, I suppose.
Yeah, he wanted to do it. He was very enthusiastic to do it. So you're right. It's and then Rocket Bunny Remembrance has one of my favorite classic Who cliffhangers with the Daleks going up the stairs. Oh yeah, that is a good one.
At least they got rid of that cliche that you can easily get rid of a Dalek. All you have to do is run up the stairs. I must admit it was getting probably long in the teeth, and people that like Doctor Who got sick of hearing it. All of that sort of stuff. So now they said, oh yeah, until you find a Dalek that can do this, and it went up the stairs. So that was the end of that, wasn't it? So.
As I say, I think for me, it just shows you that cliffhangers really made Doctor Who such the series it was. It really was important. There's so many good cliffhangers.
I'll tell you what I haven't done. I haven't counted up how many episodes that there was until the point where it became 45-minute segments.
Oh yeah.
How many cliffhangers did they have to come up with?
Yeah.
Right. So if you counted them all up, how many different cliffhangers they had to do until they got to that point where they only had to do one cliffhanger because they split it in 3 parts. Right. Or all the way up until 2005 when they brought it back. Just count up how many cliffhangers they made. I've never Googled it and said how many cliffhangers were there been in Doctor
Who. Rocket Bunny says Sylvan Ennis is very weak. Yeah. It's poorly directed. The idea of Ace using a catapult and gold coins to kill
I like that.
Is a joke. Gold has to be scraped into the chest units to clog the systems.
No, I really like the gold. I think that's better than glitter guns.
Yeah.
How close? How are you going to spray glitter, right? Unless you're a foot away from the damn thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's the wind. I mean, you only have to go like that. Wouldn't you see what I mean? That's a joke. Now that's a joke. You know what I mean? So I quite like the idea of the gold coin.
Yeah.
But that's just me, you know.
It's okay. Rocket Bunny, favorite line from all classic Doctor Who. Both of you, me, chap with the wings there, 5 rounds rapid, the demons. Yes, it's a good one.
I remember it.
A chat. Rocket Bunny. What jelly monsters in Day of the Daleks? Sounds like you are describing the monsters from.
Yeah, what it is in Day of the Daleks, it's set around that sort of like a stately house.
The mansion, yeah.
And in the Three Doctors, it's also got set around a stately house.
Yeah.
So of
the
course,
jelly monsters. I know they appear that the view like that. Yeah.
So that's why I got those
that's
two.
The jelly monsters. And
remember, I did walk away, and when I came back, so
yeah. Rocketman says, "I love the atmosphere of all Tom's last season. He's clearly affected by the fact it's his last season, and his performance has this overwhelming sense of foreboding throughout the season, up to including Logopolis. Again, I remember watching and discussing the regeneration with my parents when it was transmitted. I also remember feeling a bit let down by Castrovalva after." And then we've got Rocket Moon saying, "The first Doctor Who audio media I ever owned is the audio book of State of Decay, narrated by Baker in Tom's last season. I listened to that so many times, always had a soft spot for that story." You do.
I had a record of Brain and Morbius.
Yeah. Oh, I remember those records. They released the soundtracks, didn't they?
That was my first ever Doctor Who audio media.
And of course, I could have talked about Target books, but I thought we'd go on too long about Target books. I know it's late, but quick answers from both. What is your all-time favorite cliffhanger from Classic Who? I don't know. There's so many.
Let's see. Favorite cliffhanger. Christ. I mean, I've got them all going through my head at the moment. Well, I suppose it's always a good one, isn't it? Where the Doctor has changed, and you're then going into a new year. So those have always been good ones because it's like, oh, what, you know, because I mean, even Sarah Jane and Brigadier saying, look, he's changing, and then you see the Doctor changed, and the Brigadier just turned around and said, here we go again. You got to wait how long before you get to the next year? Is a cliffhanger, isn't it? So I suppose you could say that I got a lot of fond memories of regeneration episodes and having to wait until the next time before you actually get to the next one, right? If you were to ask me what my favorite cliffhanger, I think it's going to be the menacing one from the Pyramids of Mars, with the Sutekh saying, "I bring Sutekh's gift of death." You know what I mean? Because you see the smoke coming off of the stuff, and then it ends. But there are so many. I mean, you could do. I mean, there must be one in Brain and Morbius.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. With say when Sarah Jane was blind and she's going around, and there's that, and of course there's.
I've got one. I've just come to me. Is the Deadly Assassin one when he's drowning? I mean,
when he's holding him under the water.
That is a really and that's the one that White House complained about. And you know, they gave in on repeat and did a bit of cutting. Apparently, they cut some of the scenes, which I think is terrible, cutting the scenes. But that would be my favorite cliffhanger. So I remember loving the Deadly Assassin. It was a different story, and it was great to learn more about the Time Lords, this so-called superior race, which weren't that superior as they think, scheming and all the stuff going on. and I love that idea. It was good. The only thing is those damn outfits. They're always so funny. Those outfits the
Yeah.
Time Lords wear. And yet we're on to the last comment, I think, here.
Yeah.
And there we are. We've got, are there any storylines from modern Who that would have fit in classically?
That's easy. That's easy. That's easy, Ian. And you're going to agree with me with this.
Well,
the one that stands out the easiest with this is Blink.
Oh, yeah.
Blink would work in any era of Doctor Who, because it's just like the plastic story, where plastic is the danger and all this sort of stuff. You as long as you're doing something where kiddies know that there is something out there, that they're walking down the street and they can just see it. If you've got a statue that can come to life and all you've got to do is blink and it will kill you, and that's it. You've got the kids scared to death. And that's what Doctor Who did quite well in so many things, turning something that's all around us into a weapon. And so the statues just works. But who would have played the Doctor the best with that one? I think probably Patrick Troughton would have done a really good Blink. Oh my giddy aunt! There's a bloody thing. Don't whatever you do, don't blink. He'd be there with Jamie going, you stand in front, Jamie, don't blink while I go over there. That's how he'd have been, because he was a bit like a cowardly lion type thing. That would have been.
I know. Really I think now this is it may be a bit. Not everybody would agree, but for me, one of the best modern Doctor Who stories is Dalek. Now, could you imagine?
Oh yeah,
Tom Baker and the Last Dalek having a conversation? Because I think when you think of Genesis of the Daleks, his brilliant conversation with Davros. Now, could you see Tom Baker talking to a Dalek?
Yeah,
I could, and it would be quite interesting, because you'd get both sides of Tom Baker. You'd get the one that's kind of making fun, jokey, but then you'd get the one that is quite dangerous, the dangerous Tom Baker one, which people sometimes forget, that he can be quite ruthless as well and controlled. So you'd get that both, because if he knew the Daleks were about to, the last one, what would he think? Would he do like he did in the Genesis of the Daleks, where he had the ability to get rid of the Daleks so that they would never exist?
Yeah.
Would he do that with this, knowing that it's the last Dalek? What would he do? That would be my interesting one. That's a very good question.
By the way, I know that Rocket Bunny's just about to leave. Rocket Bunny, just to let you know, I'll try and leave a message for you on Steam tomorrow or Friday. We'll definitely play a game on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
Right.
Tony says, good night, all, thanks. And then Si says, nighty night, guys, and thanks to Ian and Del for tonight's entertainment. I hope you enjoyed it, Si. And
well, it was a bit different, wasn't it?
Tony. It's not, I understand Doctor Who isn't for everybody, but
I'll tell you what it is. This was an indulgence for both of us to do something that, without doing any type of research or mind or going back in your memory or whatever it is, you sort of like can just talk until you've got nothing else to talk about. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I've got this a little bit out of my system a little bit now, because we've talked about.
I've enjoyed it, and anyway, this is the last message I've got here. I've got thanks, guys. Big grats again for your 100th episode. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure doing 100. Is to the next 100, cheers. Yeah, and we'll still be here in the next 100 episodes, still going on and having a good moan and a laugh at the same time, I imagine. And I'm sure you'll be counting the number of how many times. And he hasn't said it much tonight, bastard. You'll be how many times?
Well, I'll say it now. Rocket Bunny, you're a complete bastard.
Yeah, we are.
Mate, you little shit. Right. How dare you turn around and say Frontios is the biggest embarrassment piece of shit, you little craphead little bit. And then you turn around and say some of the things that you did about your ones. How could you turn around and say that about certain stuff? Bloody hell. Christ, I'd have been embarrassed saying it. Some of the stuff that you said. Jesus Christ, man. No, of course, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody is fallible. I'm definitely fallible. Can't remember everything all at once. If I could, I would be prime minister or something, wouldn't I? Right? If I was, but I'm not. Right? I'm a humble person that just likes a particular show, and I'm not too bad at remembering things. Yeah. And I've got definitely an idea or an aspect of and just stories. Everything that I've ever seen.
Stories to tell as well. And we all love a good story.
And it's all that matters. We've all got our passions. In regards to Sai, I do know that this will not have been the best episode for him to ever watch. I totally get that. But I'll tell you what, it means that you've got a shitload of things stored up to talk about next week, Sai. So if you haven't got, if I don't see at least 25 sections of text about films in the first 5 seconds of next week, then I'm upset. You have to. That's all I've got to say.
I'm going to do a Star Trek episode for episode 104. To anniversary. We'll probably. I think we will do a Star Trek, but it'll be a little while yet. But we will do one. I see it on the cards. But the question will be, which Star Trek?
Well, yeah.
I think I know the answer to it, but
Oh yeah, it's got to be it's got to be the original series.
Yeah, do you know? Saying that, I was I started. I had a look at another Star Trek episode. I just thought, I'll treat myself to Star Trek Next Generation, and then I watched it and thought, oh my God, this is good.
Well, do you know what? I was thinking this side the other day. I was going to suggest to Ian, if you ever do the Star Trek The Next Generation, right? From episode 1, right, going forward.
Encounter at Farpoint.
Right. Yeah. No, if you were ever going to do that, do you know what I would do? The following week, I would start with episode 1 of Star Trek: The Original Series, and then when you bring out the episode 2 of Star Trek: Next Generation, I'd bring out episode 2 of the original series, and we'd go in tandem until I got to episode 79. And then, do you know what I would have done? I'd have laughed at him and said, shit, you got 7 seasons of this to do. You're going to be going for bloody ages.
Well, that's what I think. You see, I always think ahead for my channel. I think it's like, I mean, how am I going to follow the X-Files? You know,
I turned around to you, didn't I? I said I think you should have done Millennium.
Yeah, well, and I've had another suggestion, which was a good one, which I think was from
Rocket, wasn't it?
Bean Sandwich was Fringe, but yeah.
Oh, that was. I thought that was Rocket Bunny that said that.
Yeah, Millennium, I think, is one I may well go into because it kind of it fits with X-Files, doesn't it? But I don't know yet.
As long as you don't do the lone gunman, and I think Star Trek. I think Star Trek is in the news this week because the Starfleet Academy has finally been cancelled.
Thank heavens! Yeah, on another week, we probably would have talked a bit about that, but I definitely think I will be going down the Star Trek road when X-Files finishes.
To me, in the last what? 10 years, the only interest in Star Trek to me has got to be the 3rd season of Picard.
Yeah.
3rd season of Picard. It was a fan favorite.
Everybody loved it. Yeah.
It gave everybody what they wanted, and it was a swan song.
Yeah.
And as long as you look at it like that.
Yeah.
Right.
You see, there is the dilemma for me, and I'm still not sure whether I want to do it because I'll get halfway through. I mean, I could go through new Doctor Who in 2005, with Christopher Eccleston and start there. I'd probably start off quite well, but once I got into,
I'll tell you this, Ian. The one thing I wouldn't want you to do is struggle over something that you don't have a passion for.
Yeah,
because I think the thing that makes people like you and like your channel, is you have a passion, and everything that you talk about, you've got a passion for.
Yeah, I
There
don't
will
just
be lulls in those
yeah,
passions, because it, like anything, you could
yeah,
get to
you're right.
something like, you could get to season 7 of X Files and go, do you know what? That was the most awful season, and I've got to go
Yeah,
through 26 episodes. But you
yeah,
always know that you're going to get to season 8, season 9,
yeah. I know
where it
I've
will
got
pick up
those
or
to
something.
do. But even it's funny because I do remember I have thought about it. Yeah, some of it there are, even within those later series, there are 1 or 2 episodes which are okay, you know, which are a bit better, and it's not terrible. It was never really absolutely terrible, but it never had the magic of Mulder and Scully. That's what I have to say. That is a magic, whatever way you
Yeah.
look at it. But I will do it. I think I've got to go through, write them all, and I still have a passion for X Files. I love the X Files, always will. But you're right. There's no
But
point.
I've been threatening for years to do Star Trek the original series episode
Yeah,
by episode. I've been
I'd
saying
love.
for years I was going to do
Yeah,
that.
it'd be good if you did something like that. But
I mean, I could do that. I could do that with the Invaders. I could do that
yeah,
with Randall and
see, I
Opkirk
couldn't with
Deceased.
the Invaders. I don't
I
know
could
it
do
well
Randall
enough.
and Opkirk Deceased. I could do,
Yeah,
Quincy. I could even do Quincy.
yeah.
Thing like
Well,
that.
I hope one day maybe your channel will do things like that. It would be
Yeah.
nice. It would be nice if your channel did that. But I think you're right, actually. I don't have the passion, do I, for new Doctor Who, and I shouldn't do it.
It'll get
You
to
know?
a point where you say, well, I've got to do this, and I tell you what, I've now entered an era where the next 4 seasons are total shit, and I've got no passion for it. And the
Yeah,
only reason that you did it is because the first 3 seasons are the only things that you thought that were any damn good. Well, that means you got 3 seasons of great and 4 seasons of shit. And you're just
yeah,
going to come across and say, well, there's more shit than there is good. So what am I
yeah,
doing?
yeah. Because even the Eccleston of new Doctor Who, I like Eccleston a lot, but he had some terrible episodes. Those farting aliens.
Yeah.
The farting aliens, really. I don't. What on earth were they doing? What on earth were
People
they
unzipping
doing?
themselves out of stuff and all this.
Yeah. And David Tennant, yeah, he had some good episodes, but there isn't that many outstanding ones. You mentioned Blink, and it's funny because in Blink, he isn't in it.
I think there's one called Midnight.
Oh yes, yeah, Midnight's one, and that there's a Wrong Turn one, isn't there?
Oh, Right Turn. Right
I
Turn. It's called.
Yeah.
I think it's called Right Turn.
Yeah, there's a few episodes, but I don't know whether I've got the passion, as you say, for it. And I'm glad you mentioned that.
There's a lot of trivia that you know about. I'm pretty sure you know that Karen Gillian, who played one of the companions, was actually in the same episode as Capaldi in the things called Fires of Pompeii. They were in the same episode.
The Fires of Pompeii,
and they both ended up being in Doctor Who later on in life.
But
there's a lot of trivia that you know.
Yeah, there is stuff there, but I always say it though, but I still don't think New Who is it just doesn't touch the classic series.
It just doesn't have enough. What I think it is I just don't think there's enough interesting snippets of information that people don't already know.
Yeah. And the cliffhangers, I know I'd go on about them, but it does make a difference. And they get it all done in 45 minutes or whatever it is. And sometimes there's no room, is there? Don't you think in an episode with 45 minutes, there's no room there. And you need that sometimes with characters.
Well, you've got no character development.
Yeah. You just have to get on with story.
It's what they call a one and done.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I like stories that build up. I like to know about characters. And again, whatever people say, our passion for Doctor Who is based on the stories and the writing and what it was about. And you don't get that.
What's that in Star Trek?
And Star Trek.
What's that in Star Trek? The Undiscovered Country. One of them turns around and says, "We need breathing room." Right. So I was going, "You need breathing room," and Shatner just turns around and says, "Hitler, 1940."
Yeah.
Because but what I'm trying to say is you need breathing room to develop characters. If you've got 45 minutes, you've got no chance.
I mean, I could argue that particularly that first season of original Star Trek is an absolute brilliant series of episodes. There's not much wrong with it at all.
No,
and that is the first season. It is that good.
I even like the Alice in Wonderland with the rabbit going down the old Bones McCoy looking at it and going, "What the hell have I just watched?"
Yeah, I mean, and it's good. I like it as well, don't you? When you know that the cast are enjoying it, you know, you've got like in some episodes, like you've got Kirk dressed up as a Nazi and they're playing the Nazis.
Oh yeah.
You've got all the different sort of fun kind of aspects.
Yeah, what if prohibition was going on when World War II broke out?
You've got so many, I think, interesting ideas with Star Trek original series. And,
it was always like, what if the Romans were German?
Yeah, and I think the Next Generation I really love, because it was something I really looked forward to watching. And when I watched it,
I agree.
Even the first season, which we know, and the second season is not as good, I still can enjoy those episodes. And that's saying something for a series that you know is
by the way, boys and girls, this is the sort of headache that we have. Ending something, because he said he was going to end this about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know. I'm almost.
And we're still talking. It's now at 3 hours 25 minutes, and we're just talking nonsense. This is what goes on when he hits the end button.
Yeah,
right.
I'm
still here for another hour afterwards.
Yeah, mind you, you're participating a lot. Don't pretend any otherwise. And then Rocket Mode, Star Trek would be great too. Anything pre-Kurtzman, and well, yeah, I'll tell you some guarantee, you are never ever going to get me talking about what's going on in Star Trek world. It is just a pile of you know what. And then Cyrob said original series and movies. Yeah,
I was going to say, just imagine if your project was you've got to talk about Star Trek Discovery. I'll just be going, fuck's sake.
Oh no!
Five seasons, and then I've got that one film that I know I've got to do at the end.
What about that section?
Yeah, I've got to do that one film at the end.
You can't review that. It's unreviewable.
First of all, the only good season was season 1, and then at the end of season 5, I've got a piece of shit that nobody wants to talk about, and you're asking me to do the whole of Discovery. Yeah, thanks very much.
Even I know a lot of people won't agree with me because they say I have problems with Strange New Worlds. Yeah, there's some good stuff. And this is for another thing, but
yeah, by the way, just to let you know, the only thing that's turned up today is Ben-Hur has turned up. Ben-Hur.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely wonderful. So everybody who's still here, 6 people, thank you for being still here and enjoying. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know it's not been for everything. It's perhaps been an indulgence for me and Delboy, but it's our 100th episode. We'll be back to normal next week, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. And thank you, really, honestly, thank you. It's been a real pleasure doing this, and I hope you've enjoyed it because I've really enjoyed it. And thank you, everybody. So we'll just give our farewells as we normally do.
Oh wow, yeah. We haven't got a weird one to do with Time Lords or anything, so we're just going to say it's good night from me.
It's good night from him.
Good night. So anyway. Mine is very quickly. I'll just say salute to everybody and thank you for all your support towards my mum. I will be passing on all my best wishes from Cy, Tony, Rocket Bunny, and everybody else to my mum. Thank you very much. She's still in hospital. Hopefully she'll be out next week.
Yeah, fantastic. And all I've got to say is I'll see thee again. Bye. Bye,
have a really grand time, you bastards.
We'll be back to episode 100.